Hello, everyone, and welcome along to Transfer Deadline Day here from the football deck. We've got you covered between now and, well, is it 8:30, 9:30? Who knows? It depends how the night goes here on Deadline Day. Myself, Jamie Johnson, kicking it off with Sam Griffin. Sam, how are you?
All good, my friend. It's been a very hectic day, probably the busiest transfer deadline day we've had for a very long time. And we've still got 2 hours of the window to go as well.
That's it. The deadline, the official time is 7 p.m. Of course, we're going to keep you covered until 6:30, and then we're passing on to Jordan, Kieran, and Dan, and they're going to see you for well beyond the 7 p.m. Shut. So we're going to kick off. There's plenty to talk about. We're going to have some guests coming in and out as we go along, and we'll be sure, myself and Sam, to get some League One content in there for you. But we're going to start with the big news of the day, really, and that is, Sam, isn't it, coming from Anfield with Isak and Gahey, Willie Won't-he? And I guess we'll start with Isak, that deal now done.
Yeah, it shows how bonkers I think football's gone in the last 5 years. 40 million pounds for. I know Isak is, and everyone's after that magical number 9, aren't they? Liverpool signed Ekitike for 75 million, and he's proven that he is a very, very strong and capable number 9, especially at his young age. For them to go and get Isak as well, it was a statement of intent, and it's not something we've seen from Liverpool really in the past under their ownership. To be honest, we've never seen them go and spend tops 300 million pounds in a transfer window. So they're going to be the team to. I think the team to, if they don't win the Premier League, there's going to be questions asked about Arne Slot. He's got 2 brand new fullbacks, 2 new strikers. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits Ekitike and Isak in the same team. To be honest, will he move one out to the left? Obviously, Cody Gakpo's just signed a new contract as well. There's question marks over, especially defensively, other than the Arsenal game at the weekend when they were really solid, especially in the first 2 games, mainly against Newcastle, how open they were. And we've obviously got Gahey signing. Will it happen? Won't it happen? And with Gahey, it seems it's all relying on this Igor Jesus deal from Brighton on loan. So he looked like he went to Palace, then saw Gahey was leaving. Is like, I'm not sure in this now. Now West Ham are now rumoured to be interested as well. So which has now thrown the Gahey deal up in the air. But it is a almighty window from Liverpool. If they pull off Gahey as well, it could go down as an all-time great Premier League window.
Yeah, for Isak, they've paid the reported fee £125 million. They had their original offer of 110 turned down earlier in the month. They finally got their man, if you like. Do keep the comments coming. We've got a couple already, some interesting questions that I'm sure we're going to talk about throughout. The first one from Lewis: who do you think have had the best window? Liverpool have a shout on that, don't they? Especially if they get Gahey before 7 o'clock. On a similar theme from Be the Best Version of Yourself here on YouTube. Liverpool's transfer window will go down as one of the best in history, but if they don't win the league, it will be a failure. And I think that is pretty much agreeing with what you said there, isn't it, Sam? They have to succeed now off the back of what is been a big spending window, with those final pieces of the puzzle being added in.
Yeah, 100%. And if he doesn't win the Premier League, then he's got to win a Champions League. It can't be a trophyless season. And there was one club that I would like to rip into a bit later on, but we've got a guest from that football club, so I'm gonna save my ranting for then. But yeah, 100%. Liverpool need to win either a Premier League or a Champions League. They need to win one of the 2 big trophies to class it as a successful season.
Yeah, we've got. I mean, you mentioned the guest there. I guess we can preempt ourselves a little bit. 5:20, we've got Aaron joining us, who's a Manchester City fan, and then at 6, Brandon, who's going to talk a little bit about Arsenal and a little bit about Bristol Rovers. So the opposite end of the spectrum there in terms of the EFL. But there's a lot of else coming through today. We mentioned obviously Isak and Gahey involving Newcastle as well. The deal for Visser, 55 million. That sealed, and that sort of has allowed that move away for Isak, hasn't it? You feel like it's a bit domino effect. It's like if you're buying a house and it's always the deal 4 down the line that makes the difference to yours, and that seems where we are really on deadline day.
Yes, the deal Eddie Howe's been chasing with the transfer window, isn't it, Johan Visser? I think they did overpay for the Stuttgart striker, but I think it got to a point where damn, we need somebody now. They've overpaid a tad, shall we say, but he's proven himself at Stuttgart already. But Visser's, I really highly rate Visser. If you take him and Mbeumo out of that Brentford team, I think a lot of, if not every Premier League fan, other than probably Brentford fans, has tipped them to be in and around the bottom 3 this season. So I think you lose Isak for 140 odd million, and you get Visser for 55, and the German, I'm not even going to try and say his name, Wolfman, I think I might go with, for for near enough the same fee, 2 for the price of one. 2 different types of strikers, like the German's 6'6" and Visser's 5'10", so 2 completely plan A and plan B. So I think that's decent business from Newcastle, but they can't have any PSR complaints with the amount they've actually spent this summer as well.
Yeah, no, exactly that. I guess the other thing to talk about, we're going to get on to Man City, as we said, but Man United, it's been a lot of talk around the goalkeeping department, not least in midweek when they lost to Grimsby in the Cup, and Onana's a couple of mistakes there. They've agreed a deal to sign Royal Antwerp's goalkeeper, 21 million euros. It's just over 18 million pounds. Sene Lammers, no sell-on fee there. It's a 5-year contract. And does that solve the problem? Does that mean Onana's moving on? It's all a bit of a mess, especially the goalkeeping department at Old Trafford.
It's still a risk for Man United. If you look at his highlights reel, it's not exactly if you compare him to Emi Martinez, for example, World Cup winner Emi Martinez. He's been consistent for 5-6 years at Aston Villa. So I still think it's a risk. I think they've done that to have a potential sell-on for this goalkeeper as well, because obviously United are probably the worst selling club in the whole of England. To be honest, like you look at the Anthony deal, they've got 21 million euros for him. They bought him for 80 million euros 3 years ago. So it's a big risk at the end of the day. Onana and Bayindir have proven that they're both not good enough. Let's put it that way. It's simple. Like you look at Onana against Grimsby, for example. About 5 of them penalties he should have saved, and he was at fault for both the goals. Bayindir was at fault for one of the goals last weekend and was possibly at fault for the goal against Arsenal as well. So it is a risk going for a young goalkeeper. 23 is a very young goalkeeper, so it's still extremely young. So if it was me, I'd have gone for Martinez, proven goalkeeper. It'd have been cheaper, probably more on the wage bill, but you get what you sort of pay for in that regard. So I don't know if PSR has anything to do with it, but if I was a Man United fan, I'd have rather had Martinez than Lammers personally.
Some news sort of coming in further down the pyramid. In the Championship, Portsmouth have signed Mackenzie Kirk from St Johnstone and at Cheltenham Town. There's some interesting words coming out. It's John Palmer, who is the reporter down there. He says some of the things going on at Cheltenham really shouldn't be happening at a professional football club. So that is one to keep an eye on. Especially over the next couple of hours. We're going to come back to talking about the lower leagues after our first guest comes on. But to sort of whip round more of the Premier League news, Kolo Muani has joined Spurs on loan. Victor Lindelof has joined Aston Villa. Villa also closing on loan deals for both Harvey Elliott and Jadon Sancho. So some interesting moves for them in the attacking department. And Manchester City, the talk for them is all about Donnarumma, and we'll come to that at 5:20. So any thoughts on those, the bits at Villa and Kolo Muani, another attacking option at Spurs?
Yeah, Kolo Muani was someone that it's a type of striker that Spurs desperately needed. They needed another striker because Solanke, I think, is out for 3 months. They got Richarlison, but unfortunately for him, when he's fit, I think he's one of the strikers you don't want to play against because he's a git, quite frankly. He's got that sort of nasty streak in it, and I really like that from a striker. Kolo Muani's a different type of striker. He's obviously a bit bigger built. He's also extremely quick, can play one of either side as well. So it's a bit more versatility for the Spurs front line. But for Aston Villa, Lindelof is that signing that, when a team is panicking on Football Manager, for example, and it's like, we desperately need somebody who is available for free because he's going to keep the physio department pretty busy. But it was a signing that Villa needed. If you look at them on the opening 3 Premier League games, especially defensively, they've been pretty poor.
They're struggling, aren't they?
Yeah. Harvey Elliott is someone I highly, highly rate. He won an amazing under-21 tournament for England. And I was kind of hoping that he would get a move this summer because he deserves to play every week. And let's be realistic, he's not going to do that at Liverpool. Like, they just spent £120 million on Wirtz. So he's not going to play. So I think it's a really good move for him. Does throw in doubts about Morgan Rogers for me, because Elliott and Rogers kind of play in that same sort of position. So will Morgan Rogers go to Spurs? We don't know. And then obviously Jadon Sancho is a confusing one considering they're paying a loan fee and 80% of his wages. So for once, I think Manchester United have actually got the better end of the deal there. But if we look at what Marcus Rashford did at Aston Villa, especially in out of possession, Marcus Rashford, when he was at United, did 0.6 tackles per 90, and he went to Villa and he did 2. So there's a lot more hard work. He had more average and more shots per 90. So it could work out for Jadon Sancho, because we've got to remember there's a World Cup at the end of this year. He's still going to want to play in that. He's still only 25, 26 years old. So he's still got a long career ahead of him. So and I think that Unai Emery is a very good man manager as well. And I think this could be a move for Sancho. It sort of takes him out the limelight a little bit going to Aston Villa rather than being at Manchester United. So hopefully, for Jadon Sancho's sake, it works out for him.
And the positive for Villa, of course, is it's more options. They've got European football this year, and you always need a little bit extra. And Jacob Ramsey, one of the players moving on, he went to Newcastle. They've got players they have to replace. Some of the signings elsewhere, George Hall has moved to Port Vale from Birmingham City, undisclosed fee. There, Tom O'Connor has joined Peterborough United on loan for the season from Wrexham. And Ollie Cooper joining Wigan Athletic on loan for the remainder of this season, of course, leaving Swansea. What do you make to those? And the other one I'm going to put to you is the top end is Chelsea. They're just over £70 million, the deal that has now been agreed for Nicholas Jackson. It looked like it was always going to happen, and then the injury to Liam Delap sort of derailed it, but it's back on, and that's come through now.
Yeah, it's one of the most confusing transfers, I think, of the summer, isn't it, Nicholas Jackson? It's a striker that is a very confusing man, I think, as a footballer. He gets into all these positions and just loves... I call him Barn Door Jackson, quite frankly, because he can't hit one. Misses so many high XG chances. How Chelsea do this all the time. So he was going to go to Bayern Munich. Chelsea think, oh no, Liam Delap's injured. We'll get Jackson back. They've managed to negotiate a higher loan fee and a higher option to buy with Bayern Munich. It's outrageously good business from Chelsea. Outrageously good.
Yeah, so just to give you the numbers on that, the initial loan move is £14.3 million, and then the mandatory obligation to buy is £56.2 million. So it comes in and around 70. It's an unbelievable bit of business.
It's a brilliant business. They did that with Tyreek George as well, who's been rumoured to be going to Fulham for nearly £25 million. Like, he's an 18-year-old kid. He's barely played Premier League football. So it's unbelievable business what Chelsea do. It's a bit confusing with the two clubs they own. But yeah, it's stupendous business. Going further down the league, Ollie Cooper was one you mentioned, going from Swansea to somewhere.
Wigan.
To Wigan. I really like that. I think he's a really good creative midfielder. He was someone that I wanted my club to go after and try and get. That didn't happen. And Wigan, obviously, me and you have tipped them to do quite well this season and our season predictions. So a bit more creativity to the front line, which was needed for Wigan because they're solid defensively. So I really like that signing. George Hall going to Port Vale. That's much needed creativity for Port Vale. My still big concern is they got Dejani Brown last week. You can't be replacing Laurent Tolaj with Dejani Brown, who's not proven at this level. I know Tolaj wasn't, but he got 16 goals in the league below and has gone for over £1 million. He also scored at National League level. Dejani Brown has scored at National League level, but hasn't had that sort of step into League Two and kind of didn't do anything last season. He was just at Derby. So that's a risk. And then there was one more you mentioned, wasn't there, as well?
Yeah, O'Connor going to Peterborough, right?
Yeah, he was. I think he was in our. It was him and O'Connell, wasn't it? That were two very strong centre halves for Wrexham last year. So promotion winner. That's not to be snuffed at. A man who's very good in his duels. So will be a good signing, I think.
Yeah, and coming in at Wrexham, Ben Sheaf is the one that sort of hit headlines in the Championship today. A really strong central midfielder. He's been good for a really good few years now. He was at Doncaster on loan a good while ago when he was at Arsenal, and he's since then has really worked his way up and become a really solid Championship midfielder. So they'll be hoping at Wrexham that can sort of give them a bit of a push because they haven't started the season as strongly as they would have hoped. Also in the Championship, Jack Colback will be leaving QPR. No information on where he's going to be heading, but his contract has expired and he won't be returning. Is the announcement that has come out from Loftus Road. With Celtic, they've made a loan approach for Chelsea striker David Fofana. I feel we could spend the whole live
Chelsea
talking about Chelsea because there's always so much going on with them, and it's one of those days, it seems, doesn't it? Like sometimes you get these deadline days, and we did this in January where it was a bit of a slow deadline day at times, whereas today there has been an awful lot happening. And it seems to have come around quite quickly. I don't know how you feel about it, Sam, but in terms of these first few games of the season, now everyone's rushing to get those final pieces added to the squads.
Yeah, I don't know if you agree. I still want the transfer window to close before the first game of the season because
I think so, yeah.
we've got clubs panicking so badly that, oh my god, we need a centre back, we need a winger, right? Who's available? And it's like, you had nearly 2 months to get this business done. You knew you needed a left winger. I'll use Lincoln as an example.
Yeah, they
Needed a
needed
left
a left
back
back since the
the
start of
entire
time.
summer, and they've now done the old Football Manager thing. Oh no, who's available that we can buy? Adam Reach, you'll do the job. And he's not, in my opinion, he's not a left back. He's a left winger. So yeah, it's one of them Football Manager signings who's on the verge. If he doesn't find a club, will probably retire. It's like, you'll do Adam Reach.
I know. I
Just
think
scores
you've
well
been.
as Adam Reach.
I think there's a lot of thought process. Lincoln is one of those clubs that put a lot of thought into things. And there has been the expectation that 2 or 3 bits of business would be done today. That was the second. They brought in a midfielder as well on loan from Ipswich, so they're having a busy deadline day. Stockport, they brought in Tyler Onyago on loan from Everton, the defender. There coming back to Stockport. There's going to be a deal imminently at Wickham. They put out their usual breaking transfer news GIF, but we'll wait to see.
I think it's Sam Bell from Bristol City. That's my guess.
That wouldn't be a bad move, would it really?
No, they need a striker. And we may as well talk about, because I know you mentioned about Ben Sheaf from Wrexham. Wrexham spent, I know they've got one of the highest revenues in probably the whole of England, to be honest, with their Disney Plus deal. They've signed an awful lot of midfielders this summer. Like I'm looking at their transfer business now because it's very difficult to keep up with every single club in the country. So they've signed Ben Sheaf today, who, if he stays fit, in my opinion, is one of the best midfielders in the Championship. I think we can all agree on his day. They've signed Josh Windass, who scores goals at this level, proven. They've signed George Thomason from Bolton, who was their captain, who's currently injured, actually, I will mention that. They've signed Lewis O'Brien from Nottingham Forest. He won't have come cheap. They've got Callum Doyle as well. He's a centre-half who can play in midfield as well. Then you had Nathan Broadhead to the front line, Connor Cody's experience, Kiefer Moore, Ryan Hardy, and then had Danny Ward, who I think did something to his shoulder at the weekend. So it's been a very expensive transfer window for the old Deadpool.
The old Deadpool. We've got Kelly, who's a Wrexham fan, coming in to the chat. Be interested to see what she makes of the window as a whole. It's been definitely a busy one for Wrexham. Kiefer Moore was one of those they brought in early on in the window, has proved already to be worth his weight in gold. We're joined by our first guest of the live stream imminently here on the football deck. If you are interested, want to get your thoughts onto the live stream, do put it in the comments, and any questions as well. We'll do our best to answer them. Kelly, who I just mentioned there, is pretty happy about that move, I think, for O'Connor moving to Peterborough. Wishing him all the best. I think Peterborough were a team who needed a few extra bits and pieces. I think me and Seb, I guess briefly, we spoke about on the review show on the League One Lowdown over the weekend that perhaps their issue isn't players, but you never complain when an extra 1 or 2 come in.
Yeah, especially for Peterborough, and need experience, didn't they? They've struggled defensively, and they've actually struggled going forward as well, which is not something we associate Peterborough with being. We always associate Peter with, like, we look at last season, this was one of the top scorers, but one of the worst defensive teams. So I think Darren Ferguson is under pressure. There's rumours that Harry Leonard, if not already announced, and I may have missed it, is going to Peterborough for nearly £1 million. So I don't think they can be critical of the owner not putting money in. I think McAnthony's always been quite fair with his transfer business. He does back managers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Peterborough, because it can't go on like this. We associate Peterborough with being a top 10 at least League One club. I know they won a trophy last season, so you'd expect them to kick on a little bit this year. And they haven't. But I've always said there's only so many times you can replace the amount of talent that you buy from non-league with other non-league players. One season, you're going to get it wrong, and this might be the year.
Yeah, it's not an infinity pool, is it? Bringing players up from the National League. Jimmy J. Morgan has come in on a season on loan from Chelsea. That was about an hour ago for Peter. A couple of questions we're going to answer before we get our first guest on. Chances of Josh Honoran, I can't say his name to be honest with you, leaving Shamrock Rovers for Lincoln City. Josh Brennan, that in the chat. He would be a fool to leave Shamrock Rovers. That is one that has been floating around for a good bit of time. I would be surprised if it happens, given that Lincoln have brought in a midfielder already today. But you always learn never to be surprised on these transfer deadline days, don't you? And another one as well. For me, this one, a fellow Doncaster fan, thoughts on the new signing from Saturday, Osolano. I think he will prove to be a good move. He hasn't got the numbers that spring off the page, but neither did Rob Street when he came into Doncaster and did really well on loan last season. And he reads, and you look at highlights and things, like a very similar player, running through the channels. He's got a bit of pace about him. And I think it could be the missing ingredient for Doncaster to really sort of push them into having a successful season on return to League One. That's what I'm hoping anyway. As we now we'll cue in our first guest of the live stream. Aaron, how are you?
Hi guys, how are we? Not too bad. Been a busy deadline day though, so yeah.
Exactly that, and busy as well already for your club, Manchester City. I think we're best to start with the goalkeeping situation. Donnarumma advanced talks to sign him, 30 million. The fee there. Edison set to go the opposite way out the door to Fenerbahce, 12 million. What do you make to that and the situation there in the goalkeeping department?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty unforeseen situation. I think the club went into this summer thinking, right, we could maybe do with one more goalkeeper, and now it looks like the entire department is probably going to change. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit indicative of where we kind of are. I think we were kind of thinking, could we potentially start pushing for the title again this year? And I think we've now kind of taken that step back to actually, you know what, we'll keep building this year. If we can push for the title, that would be great. But we're not necessarily needing it to happen. We're looking to build. In terms of the specific players, I mean, Edison, he's a legend of the club, really, you know, coming in a tough time. Obviously, Bravo, we paid a good amount of money for him and he really didn't work out. And he's come in and he's probably up there with like one of the most revolutionary goalkeepers in football history. I think, you know, you've probably got the likes of Neuer up there, and I think he'd be there as well. He's done a great job for us. Performance is slightly dipped. I don't know. I think the fee may be slightly low as well, but he's only got a year left on his contract. So that is what it is. Donnarumma, look, I think the way some fans talk about him, they're thinking that we're going to build a brick wall in our goal before the start of every game. Obviously, he's not quite that. He's a very good goalkeeper. Perhaps not as good with his feet, or definitely not as good with his feet, actually, as Edison is. Probably on a pretty similar level to Trafford, to be honest. But I think what he'll bring experience, he'll bring pedigree, and he'll bring big saves and big games, which is something that Edison kind of slightly lacked.
It's a good point you mentioned about Trafford, actually, because he's probably sitting there thinking, well, what sort have I done for my England career? Like, there's a World Cup at the end of this summer. He's gone to Manchester City thinking, I'm going to be the main man this summer, or this season. And he's made one mistake, which I think is harsh because that's the way City wants to play. You want to build out from the back. And like you've mentioned, Donnarumma's not exactly much better with his feet. He's just a bigger frame, I think it's fair to say. So I do wonder what James Trafford's sort of thinking.
Yeah, look, on the mistake, firstly, I was there at the Etihad, and I was, to be honest, I was quite disappointed in the way some of our fans got on his back. You know, it's his first game at home. It's against another big team, and he's made an error. All right, support him. Don't start shouting at him. Don't start lambasting when he comes out and you sweep a keeper, and instead of it going straight to a player, it goes out for a throw instead. That's fine, in my opinion. But yeah, he has obviously now been put in a tough situation with Donnarumma coming. As I said, I think the original plan was one of Edison and Ortega stay. They be the number one, while Trafford is back up, plays the kind of 20-odd games that Ortega has played over the last 3 years. And then next season, because both of their contracts were expiring, whoever was still here would have left, and Trafford would have just assumed that number one spot. Now, I don't really know what's going to happen with him, to be honest. I mean, he's already got 3 league games. He'll play in the Carabao Cup. I think if we have dead rubbers in the Champions League, he'll play in the FA Cup as well. And then maybe, he can get a couple more league games. I don't think Donnarumma has the perfect injury record over the course of his career. So obviously there's a chance for him to get in there. But in terms of long-term prospect as a number one, I do slightly worry for Trafford.
I guess the question to ask before we open it up to a wider conversation about the window for Manchester City is if Donnarumma and Ederson, if these deals do happen, is Donnarumma and Trafford a better pairing, or are you in a better place now than you were with Ortega and Ederson?
Wow. Are you in a better place? I'd say from the 2nd of September, no, obviously, because I think we have a very specific way that we need our goalkeepers to play, and both of them obviously have little to no experience of doing that. But I think in the long run, we probably are in a better place. I think Edison, yeah, like I would have kept him for the extra year. I wasn't too fast personally about getting rid of him now for a fee, but I think his time was coming in 12 months. Ortega, I think, was a really good backup. But I think, and this is something I think you've seen with previous backups, especially Zach Steffen, who was here before Ortega. Once a backup goalkeeper sits on the bench for too long, you lose that bit of sharpness, and it means that saves that you were able to make before, you just can't quite make now because you're not playing week in, week out. And I think that's kind of what's beginning to happen with Ortega. He's obviously, I think, technically still at the club. Rumours on him have gone really quiet. Perhaps partly to do with Marcus Bettinelli's injury. So it'll be interesting to see if he's still here come 7 o'clock.
And I guess overall, then, what would you make to the window? A couple of minutes on that.
Yeah, look, I think it's another transitional window, isn't it? I think we've brought in some good players, we've brought in some good potential, but it's obviously now taking the time to coach that into Pep Guardiola's system and letting these players develop. I know Cherki obviously looks like he's out for a couple of months, so that's not ideal. I've just seen as well, Ait Nouri's not been called up by Algeria because of his ligament problems, which forced him off against Spurs. But I do think there's some really good potential there. And I think pretty much all of them have showed it in flashes, whether it's been at the Club World Cup or in the Premier League. So, yeah, there's definitely something there. And now I guess it's on Pep to coach these players and make sure that that spark is every week like we used to be before, so we can start challenging for league titles, for Champions Leagues again.
I mean, I've been really impressed by Reinders sort of early on. He's been the one that's shone for me so far. Go on, Sam.
The one question I have is over Phil Foden at the moment. Obviously, he was disappointing, I think it's fair to say, last season. Where do you see him sort of fitting in the City team at the moment? Obviously, they've got Oscar Bob, who seems to be a favourite at the moment, obviously coming back from his broken leg. You've got Marmoush, who I think has been excellent on sort of the left-hand side. You've still got Doku, Bernardo Silva. It looks like Gundogan's going to leave. So where do you actually see someone like, obviously you've got Calvin Phillips and Foden are probably the two that I'm going to re-ask about.
Yeah, Calvin Phillips is done, I think. The only reason he's still here is because he had surgery and he's not fit. Right? Otherwise, we would have got him out this window. Phil Foden, honestly, I have no clue. These niggling injuries, he's picked up another one, which is why he wasn't in the squad yesterday. These niggling injuries they're completely killing any chance he has to rebuild any momentum in this side. Obviously, that we're City, we want to go deep in every competition. We'll play a lot of games this year. And I guess it's wait for his time to come. That's what he's going to have to do. That might be on the left wing. It might be in attacking midfield. It might be on the right wing. Who knows? Because, yeah, he can obviously play in all of those positions. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And on Oscar Bob as well. He's another one who looks like a doubt due to fitness reasons at the moment. So, yeah, maybe that's Foden's in after the international break.
And sort of away from Man City, but I guess like tangentially related, Gundogan, one of the rumours going around there is he's moving to Galatasaray. What do you make to that? Another step in his career?
Yeah, I think the comeback hasn't quite worked as we thought it would. I think he lost a lot during the 12 months that he was at Barcelona. I think you could kind of tell he'd gone from playing at Premier League intensity week out to playing in La Liga week in, week out, which is obviously slower pace because of the weather, etc. So yeah, it's not quite worked out for him. Obviously, I wouldn't mind keeping him around as a good experience, but at the same time, I'm perfectly happy for him to go to Galatasaray. So yeah, I'm not particularly fussed by it. I think he's been a good servant for us. He's won the treble. He's been our captain, but I think it's a pretty good time for him to go, to be honest.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us. You've been a great help there with getting a really in-depth view on Man City there. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
And even in those 10, 15 minutes where we've been focusing on Manchester City, so much has happened and there is a lot for us to move back across. Lincoln City have got a new signing, their third of the day. It's a season on loan from Coventry for Justin Obekwu is what I'm going to go for there. And another one for Lincoln City, a very busy day for them. Michael Obafemi has gone on loan from Burnley to Bochum, who in the second Bundesliga 2. And Bradley, go on, you're going to have to help me with the surname there, Sam. It's one I can never...
Honvian. I'll go with that.
He's gone to Shrewsbury. He's going, we expect, to Shrewsbury. So
Lewis Orford's also just gone to Stevenage from West Ham on loan.
Another one that is rumoured around is Joe Ironside leaving Doncaster to go to Tranmere. So we'll see on that one. He's struggling to get into the squad, really, and especially with the latest striker coming in. That is going to be even greater of a difficulty for him getting into the squad. So no surprise there. To butt in before I'll let you go there, Sam. Kelly Davidson with a lovely super chat for us there. George Dobson going to Millwall isn't going to happen. I'll paraphrase there. What she's hoping for. So thank you for that.
Well put there. A couple of others. Luton Town have signed Ethan Archer on a permanent deal from Cheltenham Town. But he has gone back to Cheltenham until the 3rd of January. A winger that at the start of the window I was really hoping for us to get, can play either side, has an eye for goal, eye for assists, and it unfortunately hasn't happened. But another good signing for Luton Town, who have made some decent business so far in this window. And obviously you mentioned Obekwu to Lincoln City. A pretty good day for Lincoln City, I think, by all accounts. Obviously Skubala, it was well renowned that you needed some extra bodies, or Lincoln needed some extra bodies. They've now got Obekwu and James Collins, Rob Street, Freddie Draper, so they're perethid in the striking department now. Obekwu obviously had a very successful spell with Grimsby last season, scoring 10 times last season. It's not too far for him to move either, which probably helps. So a good day all round so far for Lincoln City.
Ryan Loftus joined Crawley as well. Much more will be talked about of League Two, and we hand over at 6:30. So if you're hoping for some focus on League Two, do stay tuned for that. Ogbean has joined Sheffield United on loan from Ipswich. They brought in a couple today. They've done a lot of business this summer with their new AI-led approach under Ruben Sellers. It hasn't come off just yet. And from Oxford United, Steph Negru has gone to Bristol Rovers on loan for the season. A lot of loans coming through in these last few minutes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think Sheffield, touch on Sheffield United, they've obviously had a torrid start to the season. Pressure already built on Ruben Sellers, especially after the weekend. You had fans basically telling him to go away. So he's under pressure immediately. And it's a big call of faith for the owners to now back him with more players on deadline. I think they've signed 3 or 4 today. So under pressure immediately. He's now been backed in the transfer market. So when the international break is over, we've obviously got another one pretty quickly after as well. I think it's 4 weeks after, isn't it? Which we'll touch on the League One Lowdown this week because I hate international breaks. Under pressure, and yeah, it's not really what you want. It's sort of hangover, isn't it, from the playoffs last season? I think for them, they've lost a lot of experience in their side. And they have gone for a more of a younger approach now. Especially Ruben Sellers is a young manager as well. Obviously, he was at Hull, kept Hull up. We were surprised to see him get sacked. I think we've got Ollie in the chat who's a Hull City fan. I was personally surprised to see Sellers get sacked from Hull after an exceptional job he did at Reading. So I think he's a manager that takes time to get his philosophies across. It's not something that happens overnight. I know everyone said he's had pre-season, but there's been a lot of overhaul in that Sheffield United squad. So I do think it's going to take probably till the next international break to get Sheffield United firing.
Yeah, and that is a real issue for them. We're going to have a rotation through the leagues, and obviously we'll get to the Championship in a second. In terms of the Premier League, Liverpool leading the way despite a pretty poor start to the season in terms of how well they've played, but the results speak for themselves. They've got 3 wins. They're the only team to do so so far. So it doesn't matter how well they have played because they've won the games. And at the opposite end, Wolves have started 0 points they've got from the first 3. Do they need to do any business today? I think maybe their biggest piece of business would be keeping Strand Larsen. Lots of rumours over the last few days with him.
Yeah, Wolves have a very good knack of signing players that nobody's ever heard of that turn out to actually be quite good. They've signed a player from Genk at 3 o'clock today called Tolu Orikadar for £24 million. So they do have a knack of just sort of finding these gems around Europe because this is their 8th season, I think, in the Premier League now in a row, something like that. And other than the last, they've always been on sort of the brink of relegation, haven't they? They keep changing managers, and there's only so long that can work. The biggest bit of business they can do this summer is keeping hold of Strand Larsen. They've lost Cunha, you've lost Ait Nouri. You can't lose Strand Larsen as well. I know they've had PSR problems, but I personally think Strand Larsen is one of the most all-rounded strikers in the Premier League. Not the best, but one of the most complete, if that makes sense, in terms of his attributes. So £60 million, it's probably going to be unlikely that he goes to Newcastle now with them having Visser. The team I still worry for is Brentford. Now they have lost Visser. They've lost Mbeumo. It looks like Reece Nelson might go there. And they've signed Dango Otara for £42 million. That's an awful lot of money for a man who isn't a proven goal scorer, I think, in the Premier League. Team I actually worry for is Aston Villa. Aging squad. PSR, their owners want to spend. And if I remember correctly, Unai Emery has a knack in his 3rd season of getting a bit worked out. And this is his now 3rd season at Aston Villa. So I worry for Aston Villa, an aging squad. There's not really much athleticism in that. So like Morgan Rogers is an excellent footballer, but he doesn't possess blistering pace. And I think football's now gone away from this sort of technical, like if you look at Manchester City, for example, this technical De Bruyne's and stuff like that, to now much more of an athletic and pacey sport. Like I look at something like Chelsea, for example, Esteval, Gittins, I'll use them two as Neto. I think it's more of an athlete ability now. Newcastle, they've got Elanga, Barnes, Gordon. I know you could go for West Ham, for example. Their squad is like a pensioner walking a Zimmer frame squad. Like you've got Soucek and Ward-Prowse in midfield. That's no legs at all. And I'm not surprised to see where West Ham are in the table. It was a pretty shock result against Nottingham Forest, who have all these rumours swirling around Nuno at the moment, and who knows what's going to happen with him. I think the funniest thing in the table is actually to see Manchester United above Manchester City with all the rumours flying around about Amorim, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? It's interesting how things go, especially at this very early stage of the season. Wickham, an announcement coming from them a couple of seconds ago. They've signed teenage striker Donnell McNally from Nottingham Forest. He's just joined Forest from Chelsea and immediately goes out on loan to Wickham. In terms of the promoted sides, before we move on to talking about the Championship, Sunderland, of course, Burnley and Leeds. Alan Brown has joined Middlesbrough from Sunderland on loan. The paperwork being finalised there. What do you make to the 3 summers, I guess, in brief for those promoted sides? And if I can be as harsh as to ask you who you think has the best summer out of the 3 of them?
Sunderland have had the best summer, easily.
Yeah, right.
I think they've recruited, not just if they stay up, but if they go down, they've got a lot of sellable assets, which they can then rebuild. I look at someone like Ipswich, for example. They signed an awful lot of players last summer, have gone down, used the parachute payment really well. West, they've started the season poorly, but they have overhauled the squad. I think Sunderland have had an excellent window. Burnley have had a better window this time round than last time they were in the Premier League because they kept hold of all their squad this time and their loanees. They didn't completely overhaul it. And the other promoted club was Leeds. I think they've had a pretty good summer as well. I still think they lack another striker.
It's a good start. It's a Monday evening.
But they did get rid of Patrick Bamford, which is brilliant because he's nowhere near a Premier League striker nowadays.
They brought in Calvert-Lewin, who hasn't exactly hit the ground running.
He had a brilliant debut,
himself.
Didn't he?
Yeah, against Sheffield Wednesday in the cup, didn't set any trees on fire, if you like. But yeah, I mean, moving on to the Championship. There's been a lot of money spent across the second tier, hasn't there? Ipswich, Wrexham, Birmingham are ones that spring to mind in terms of teams that's been spending a lot of money. That's sort of trickling down, isn't it? That effect of multiple players this summer going for 100+ million, and it's filtering down that Championship players are spending 5, 10, 15 million on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I don't think there's a club in the Championship other than Sheffield Wednesday that haven't spent a bit of money or something like that. Look at QPR, for example. They've spent, to be fair, for QPR, they've spent quite a lot of money. Charlton have obviously invested heavily. They've signed Joe Rankin Costello, Charlie Kelman, Ollie Affey. They got Kaminski as well for goalkeeper, as well as others. Norwich sold a couple of players to get some more in. Birmingham, obviously, they built their squad last year, so didn't have as busy summer this summer. Preston have had an excellent start, but I don't think they've done any. Off the top of my head, Preston haven't really signed anyone that like makes you scream, if that makes sense, for a lot of money. Swansea and Portsmouth are two clubs that I think recruit incredibly well. Like Ethan Galbraith in my head for Swansea is an absolute bargain at, I think it was £1.5 million. Bristol City are up, having a good start with their new manager Gerhard Struber. Coventry look like they got Luke Wolfenden from Ipswich. That's a solid centre back for the Championship. They've had a explosive start, I think it's fair to say, for
Scoring an awful lot of goals, aren't they?
Yeah. Leicester have lost their entire playing squad and playing two 16-year-olds. So Cifuentes has done well to actually have a decent start. There's still that hangover. I don't know about their 9-point deduction, but that's probably why they've sold absolutely everybody. Mark Robins doing what Mark Robins does at Stoke, finally getting Stoke to actually look a semi-capable football club so far this season. West Brom have sold an awful lot of players, but recruited incredibly well. And then Middlesbrough have now got Rob Edwards, who's obviously won promotion with Luton Town. They've recruited a hell of a lot of players, especially in the last 2 weeks after they lost to Doncaster in the Cup. They went on this heavy recruitment spree. So yeah, I am, to be honest, Middlesbrough have surprised me, shall we say. I didn't expect Middlesbrough to be as good as they have been in the opening part of the season.
They turned it around very quickly. I mean, they were absolutely thumped by Doncaster. They made 11 changes in Doncaster for that game, and I think Middlesbrough made a handful, but there was still a good feature of big players. Morgan Whittaker, beg your pardon, springs to mind, and someone played in that game, and they were absolutely battered. So they've definitely sort of got the injection and a kick to spend a bit of money. Hull haven't spent a lot, but they brought a lot of players in, haven't they? Ollie McBurney is one that springs to mind there in terms of a top quality player they brought in. And they've done their business well already, though. Year abroad, though they haven't hit the ground running just yet, really. It's been a bit inconsistent in terms of the start to the season. Just to flick back to the news to come in the Premier League before we have a look at the League One table. Rasmus Højlund is one of the only ones we haven't talked about. Confirmation still to come on his move, potential move to Napoli. And all this stuff we talked about earlier on, a lot of the deals that are on their way aren't completely signed, sealed, delivered. Dot the I's, cross the T's and such with Isak, Gahey, Sancho, Elliott, to name a few of those ones that we're waiting on full confirmation for. But in terms of League One, it seems a lot today have been a lot of loans, a lot of players filtering down, and you get that towards the end of the window, don't you, where a deal at the top filters down to a deal in the Championship, to League One, etc., etc.
I think we had a lot of that, didn't we? When we did our season predictions, we all kind of had to predict that eventually clubs such as Burton, Orient, the clubs with the smaller budgets would have to go, right, the Premier League have now started. They're giving their players to the Championship, which is then now a knock-on effect to League One and League Two. But yeah, I think the surprise package, I think there's two surprise packages. To be fair, actually, I'm looking at this League One table. I didn't actually realise how chaotic it currently was, to be honest. Like, you've got Stevenage in second place. Nobody expected Stevenage to be in second place. The job Alex Ravel done, especially over the summer, he's added a lot of flair to the front line, such as Kem Campbell's the one that sticks in my mind. I really rate Kem Campbell for League One. They've got Jamie Reid back firing, back fit, back scoring goals. And then you add that to the solidity they've got at the back, which hasn't really changed other than adding Jasper Pattenden. They lost Murphy Cooper in goal as well. So it's been a very good summer. And sometimes in League One, there's always that sort of surprise package that has a really tight-knit squad. Not the biggest, but a very tight-knit squad that does really well. And what they'll be hoping is they don't do what they did a couple of years ago with Steve Evans, where they took their eye off the ball and kind of fell down the league. Bradford, obviously, we're taking quite a bit of stick from Bradford fans, and especially Cardiff fans, to be honest.
I think everyone's taking a bit of stick from Bradford fans with the pet by the chickens. Means they're still rumbling on.
To be fair, the pet by the chickens is probably one of the best ones we've seen so far. Cardiff have now actually added a couple of players. Amari Kellyman's joined on loan, a £19 million player, which we're pretty sure got around PSR with that sort of signing. And Gabriel Osho, who was at Luton. So that's two very good signings for Cardiff, who have started the season like a house on fire. Nathan Trott's been outstanding for them in goal. I didn't expect them to be this good. And I think the surprising thing for Cardiff is, considering how well they've started the season, nobody's gone after the two Colwell brothers in midfield. Been two of the best players, if not the best players in League One. Yeah. And nobody's really shouting about them, to be honest. Obviously, Craig Bellamy left them out of the Wales squad as well, which was interesting. We've got your team, Donny, as well, who have had a very strong start to the season under Grant McCann. Huddersfield have decided to change their entire squad and manager. Extremely strong at home. Had a challenging start away, but I think when you have an inexperienced manager, it's going to take time. Lincoln have had a solid
spoken
start.
about it a lot with Huddersfield is just the depth they've got, how many quality players they have, and the substitutes. There's no drop from the quality of the first team to the substitutes, which you see from pretty much everyone else in the division. Just a brief note from elsewhere as we go through the leads. There is a signing coming at Fleetwood. They've done the Jim White featuring teaser, so we'll see who that is. And the deal for Ethan Archer going to Luton, he's been loaned straight back to Cheltenham. Michael Flynn's calling it a fantastic deal for both the club and Ethan. So interesting there. But there's been some interesting starts to the season in League One. You were going to go on to Lincoln there, who have done a bit of business late. We talked about the 3 signings they've made today, but despite this constant need for new players, the left back that we were sort of banging on every week, we'd mentioned they've still not got a left back. But they've still started the season pretty well.
Yeah, Skabala's done a really good job, hasn't he? He seems to have adapted a bit more this year. Last year, I think we were critical of him in terms of he wasn't adapting, but he has adapted this year. He's got the best out of all the players he has. And sometimes having a bit of a later charge in the transfer window can work in your favour in terms of you've got a much more of a tight-knit squad. Everyone knows their jobs. So you're going into the season when everyone's had mass overhaul, but you're ready to go because your players know their jobs. And I think that's kind of the case with Lincoln. Mansfield obviously had an electrifying start to the season as well, with 4 wins in a row at one point. I think that was boosted by having Everton in the cup. Players had something to want to play for, playing Everton. Wimbledon are the team I think have surprised every League One fan so far this season. We all expected them, especially with the budget they have, to be really low down, but especially they lost Josh Nerfil as well, who was kind of their standout player in League Two last season, but they replaced him with Asimwe. That's a really good signing. I looked at some attributes, and in terms of like output, they're extremely similar. So they've done really, really well to get that done. Stephen Schumacher, I think, should be in for some criticism at the moment at Bolton. I think, obviously, they've got Marcus Fors today and Cyrus Christie. So that's 2 fairly big investments in terms of wages for League One. And Marcus Fors, if he stays fit, is going to be one of the best attackers in League One. So it might just be that missing piece of the jigsaw at Bolton. We'll come back to Orient in a minute because we've had 15 new players join. I think Plymouth, we'll talk about Blackpool. They've had a lot of investment, I think it's fair to say, this summer, only losing Rob Apter, spent fees on Niall Ennis, Jordan Brown. They've got Heckway, they've got Fraser Horsfall. So Steve Bruce has had a lot of investment, and they've been a pretty poor start to the season, especially conceding goals. You can see 13 goals, which is the joint worst in the league with Plymouth, who have also had a very disappointing start to the season, which puts Tom Cleverley immediately under pressure. Wickham have seemingly done the old Football Manager tactic of, right, we've had a really busy January. We've got a load of money to spend in the transfer. Let's have another really busy transfer window, which heaps
pressure on. You've been
playing
Football Manager lately, by any chance?
I have,
had 2 or 3 Football Manager references.
Yeah, I really like Football Manager, and we're waiting for the new one. Which, to be honest, we're surprised Mike Dodds is still in a job, to be honest. Heavy recruitment in January.
I think it's perhaps a conversation for this weekend coming. I mean, not to plug the League One Lowdown too aggressively, but with the international break this weekend, we've got a bit of a condensed fixture list. It gives us time to talk about those bigger picture conversations. And Mike Dodds' future and the future of the entire project at Wickham is definitely an interesting one. Some of the quotes from last weekend were absolutely mind-boggling. We don't have a plan B. We need to make the plan A better. We're too far down the line to change it. It's worrying, even from an outside perspective. Just a quick roundup elsewhere. The Gahey deal at risk of collapse, with Palace unable to find a replacement. The medical has been completed there, it seems. So definitely one to keep an eye on. That's going to rumble on all the way and perhaps even beyond 7 o'clock if the deal sheet is in. Joe Ironside, a deal agreed to sign for Tranmere Rovers. Loan or permanent, not sure there. Sean Patton has joined Reading, a permanent deal for him. We know that one. Derry City, he's leaving, the striker, to head to League One. As for League Two, which we'll pivot across to before we welcome on our second guest, Brandon's going to come on and talk about Bristol Rovers and a little bit on Arsenal as well. So it was nice sort of link into that with Bristol Rovers. Notts County, John Parnham on the YouTube comments. Remember, you can stick any questions or thoughts in the comments, and we'll do our best to talk about them. Hoping for a striker, nothing just yet. Indications are that it is unlikely, which is a surprise, isn't it, really? And the other thing to add to that is the fact that it looks like Jatta's going to stay. And it was a lot of talk that he was moving, put a rumbling on all summer. So not bought a striker in, but if they're going to keep Jatta, is it a little bit 6 of one, half a dozen of the other? They're a little bit where they were beforehand.
Yeah, 100%. And League Two is a difficult topic for, I think, me and you, because I'm not going to lie, I don't really keep up to date with League Two. We've got League Two hosts on at 6:30 who can have a lot more knowledge, who are going to have a lot more knowledge than myself and you. I think the big story, I think it's fair to say, I think everyone will agree from League Two is MK Dons. I think it's fair to say.
No, I agree.
We've got Callum Patterson, Mendes Lang, Kane Wilson, to name a few. They're on top of Alex Gilby, McGlivery, the goalkeeper. Can't say his name. It's a squad that is ready for League One, like the top end League One.
Yeah.
I don't understand how PSR works fully in League Two. I'm not going to pretend that I do. So I don't know how they've managed to wangle around PSR with all of this, to be honest, because I thought it was based on wages, to be honest, and revenues. So if you make obviously a percentage of revenue, you can then spend a percentage. I think it's the amount of revenue you make, you can spend 80% of that on wages, something like that. So I don't really know how MK Dons with their empty bowl of a stadium make 80% in revenue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, wasn't it? I think if you feel like the conversation that always comes is League One is the worst league in terms of PSR, with restrictions on that. So more talk about Josh Honeyman at Shamrock Rovers. Foolish it would be for Shamrock Rovers to let him go, according to Matthew Dooley in the chat. We touched on that a little bit earlier. My feeling is that I would be surprised if it does happen. Lincoln have now already brought 3 in, including a central midfielder. So if they add another, that would be, I wouldn't go as far to say overkill, but is he ever going to play this season? I know Jack Morden's out injured, Ethan Hamilton's moved on, Ethan O'Han much earlier in the window. But the fee that was touted is it's not an insignificant one. Is it really in terms of what was coming out? I'll give you a second to think about this question from Connor Barry. Sam, any predictions for a shock transfer before the end of the window? And we've got a question about Johnny Smith's move from Wigan to Gillingham. As I scroll back up to re-find it, loan or permanent? Well, the information coming out from Peter O'Rourke earlier on today was that he's set to join on a loan deal. I don't think anything else has been announced since, so it's one that is sort of going to stumble along, isn't it? And we'll see on that. But yeah, any thoughts on any of those? And then obviously to talk about Leighton Orient, we've got to give you the chance to do that.
Yeah, Johnny Smith's an interesting one. He's obviously relatively experienced at League One level. 13 appearances for Burton in 2021, 46 appearances, I think it's in total for Wigan. So, yeah, I think that's a really good creative signing. I think it's fair to say. A good age as well at 28 years old. So that will be a decent signing. In terms of a shock transfer, what club do I think is going to do a really rogue? Earlier in the day, I said Aston Villa or Fulham would do one of these rogue transfers. Villa went and got Lindelof. I'm calling that a rogue transfer because that's just weird. In terms of desperate, obviously Cheltenham are incredibly desperate with their new owner, bottom of the pile in the EFL as well. Same with Shrewsbury. They haven't got a new owner, to my knowledge. So Michael Appleton's still in charge there.
And the director of football's moved on as well, hasn't he, early on in the window?
Yeah. Ryan Loft's an interesting one. Crawley is one of the worst strikers I think I've watched, in my honest opinion. So I'm surprised Crawley have gone with him in terms of the way Scott Lindsay likes to play football. In terms of a rogue transfer, somebody, I reckon, this is going to be really, really rogue. I think someone from League One who we don't expect to move. It could be one of the Colwills or somebody like that. At sort of 6:30, there's going to be an offer accepted for a big player in League One to go to a top-end Championship club. I'll say that.
Well, I like that you've kept that nice and vague,
nice and broad. Yeah,
you could be right. So was it? I think that's more bold than I was going. I was passing that one straight to you, not me myself. Come out with anything. Go on. I have a couple of minutes on letting know it because 6 o'clock. As soon as we hit 6, we're gonna. Brandon's gonna join us. So go on, Sam. Letting know it's been a very busy window and lots to do, hasn't it? With all those players moving on.
Yeah.
To have the replacements to do this summer.
Yeah, 15 new signings, and I think a lot of, especially after Saturday's defeat to Northampton, we never beat Northampton. We've beat them twice in 13 games. I think there is a lot of overreaction and a lot of, how can I put this, over eagerness for us to do really well. Like, I look at us from last year, we were 21st on, and I keep bringing this up, but and I will. On the 21st of November, we were 21st last season. We finished 6th. We've got more points at this stage this season than we did last season. And we've got a bigger overhaul of players than we did last season. I really like the sign of Josh Koroma, hit the ground running. And I think there's been a lot more of a balance to our summer this year in terms of we've got Aaron Connolly, Dimitri Mitchell, Josh Koroma, Don Ballard is a player I highly, highly rate, works hard, is a proper penalty box type striker. Michael Craig, Idris El Mazouni coming home. So like there's Michael Craig as well. So we're talking about players who have been there and done it. They're a good age, 24, 25, 26. They're a good age. And then you add the young youthfulness of somebody like a Joe White, a bit exuberant type midfielder on loan from Newcastle. You've got Alfie Lloyd, who are yet to see. Apparently he's a really hard-working striker. I think the thing with Orient fans, especially after the weekend, was we've signed Charlie Wellens, who's Richie Wellens' son, and he got on at the weekend over Azim Abdullahi, who we signed last January, and I'm going to be brutally honest, I've not been too impressed with, other than his hat-trick against Exeter. So I don't see a problem with Wellens signing his son. I don't think it's a signing that Wellens would have made. It had been the board, and he's scored in every game near enough he's played in, like the under-21s, the PFA game he played in. So I don't have a problem with it. Tommy Simpkins, the one I'm incredibly excited about, as well as Jack Morehouse. Jack Morehouse reminds me of Jamie Donnelly, but a bit more flair, if that makes sense. Jamie Donnelly, like, you give the ball to his feet, he can turn, he can pick a pass, where Morehouse picks up the ball and dribbles with it. And I think it would take time for him to adapt to League One. And when you've got 15 new players, for crying out loud, they need time to adapt. We're going to have inconsistencies like the Mansfield result and the Huddersfield result, but then you're going to pick up the performances like you did against Wigan, for example. So I think people just need to calm down a little bit, quite frankly. There's a really big overreaction, and I think last season has kind of put everyone's expectations really high. But I think League One is incredibly competitive this year. We've got clubs, while we haven't got a Birmingham and a Wrexham in terms of these massive budgets, what we have got is probably 12 to 13 teams thinking they can get top 6, and everything's incredibly tight, for example. So I think people just need to calm down. We've got one of the best managers in League One. Calm down, and it'll all work out. If we finish 10th at the end of the season, think of it this way. A lot of our players this time for next season are contracted, rather than 6, 7 of them being loans. I think that people just want to see people like Sonny Perkins maybe go out and get some first team experience. So yeah, I'm still optimistic that one more will come in. The big loss though was Ethan Galbraith, Jordan Brown. I love Jordan Brown personally. I think he's a midfielder that we've big time missed in terms of winning second balls, winning his duels. Obviously Ethan Galbraith is one of technically the best footballers I've seen in an Orient shirt, and fully deserved his championship move. And then Denaji obviously went to Turkey. I think that was more for his World Cup hopes with Ghana. He needed to play in the top tier or a second tier in England. So I don't begrudge that from anyone.
Celtic have agreed a deal for another mouthful of a name, a winger, 5.2 million. Sebastian Tonetki is what I'm going for. Their Football League World reporting that Barnsley are going to sign Jake Rooney on loan from Derby. Blackpool and Exeter signings coming in the next few seconds, by the looks of things. At 6, we'll come back to talking about those after our next guest. But before we get there, Brandon comes on, just a quick word on a bit more clarity on the Mark Gahey situation. This is it's easier to read, really, with the Daily Mail. This is from Harry Bamford there. So new information coming to light. The deal for Igor Julia seems to have collapsed despite a medical. The Guardian are reporting that it's been cut off due to an issue with that medical. They're now working on new targets, but it's proving tricky with the clock ticking towards the deadline. And then in conjunction with that, The Athletic have claimed that Mark Gahey completed his medical with Liverpool, but is now having talks with Glasner with the mood in quotes jeopardy. So it's all up in the air with that one. Definitely one that we'll come back to talking about as we go forward. But we're ready for our next guest to pop on and talk to us here on the Football Deck transfer live stream. Brandon, how are you?
I'm good. How's things been for both of you today?
Yeah, good. Busy, I think, is the word to describe it. We'll say that a lot, I think, before the end of things. Two clubs to talk to you about. I guess we'll start with Bristol Rovers. Just summary of the window as a whole, and any business today before the end of the window you expect to be done.
Yeah, I mean, we literally just about half hour ago we announced the loan signing of Negru from Oxford. Another centre half to come in. Looks like we'll potentially be losing. I think Clinton Molar's the likely one to come out. He wasn't in the match squad last on Saturday against Grimsby, and it doesn't look likely he will be a Rovers player any longer. We have also signed Joel Cottrell from Swansea on loan as well. So we've used 2 loan signings today. Reports that there might be one in. I'm not sure who it is, but I'm very happy with the business we've done, especially getting in one of the better centre backs in League Two last season in Negru. Played really well for Salford, and from what I've been reading and what I've been hearing from Oxford United fans, they rate him really highly. So I'm more than happy to welcome him in to a defence now that looks a lot stronger than whatever it was we put out last season. I wouldn't call it a defence. I'd call it a sieve, because everything just went through.
Yeah,
It
I
was
think
a
on
difficult
paper,
season to say the least, wasn't it?
yeah, I think on paper it looks quite a good summer, doesn't it, for Bristol Rovers? Like, you've got Luke Southwood in goal, a very good League Two. I think even potentially a League One goalkeeper. Alfie Kilgore's been there and done it at League One level. Ellis Harrison returning, I think, is big, and obviously you've got Darryl Clark back in charge. Macaulay Southam-Howes got to a League One playoff semi-final last year with Stockport. Josh McEachran, a very good ball-playing League One midfielder if he can stay fit. And then Jack Sparks, an attacking left wing-back from Peterborough as well.
Yeah, I'd say the window we've had on a whole we had, like, I remember, like, the window had opened for like the first 2 weeks. We heard nothing out of the club, and then it was just sort of sign in after sign in. And I think the way that we've gone about this window compared to last year, we've gone and done a sort of complete reverse of we've gone for characters. So Ricky Martin and our director of football is going on about signing characters as well as like players, because the one thing that we sort of lacked last year was that, we lacked sort of mentality and that resilience. I'd say is the one thing. Every time we went 1-0 down, it was just heads drop, and then we collapsed. So having that sort of resilience, the mentality, and fixing everything over again is been the main thing. And I think we're slowly getting back to first couple of rocky games of the season, although I did think we've looked a lot better in every game we've played this season. It's going to be a slow process, but I reckon come the end of the season we'll be hopefully pushing up the table and back to where we want to be.
Fantastic. We'll come to talking about Bolton. Thanks to Sarah Lane for a super chat coming through there. What are our thoughts on Bolton? We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But while we've got you here, Brandon, is it your Premier League club? Is that what you call it with Arsenal?
Yes. The club that I'd say I'm most affiliated to within the Premier League, Arsenal. Obviously, I missed yesterday's game completely because I was down playing a five-a-side tournament, so I didn't get to see any of the game.
I think you picked a good one to miss from what I heard about it.
From what I heard, the goal wasn't one to miss though.
That was a very good goal.
And fair play to Dominic Szoboszlai. It's a great finish, and what a goal worthy to win any game, to be fair. And it's those fine margins that, either side of that post, it either come away with a 1-0 win or a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, it's that bit of
we're
quality,
having-
isn't it? I mean, and Arsenal have added a bit of quality, if I can use such a segue, across the summer. What do you make to the summer as a whole? Of course, Gyökeres was the signing you needed in terms of a striker. Have you missed anything? Do you need something before the end of the window? How do you feel about it?
I would say that on the whole, Arsenal pretty much completed everything that they wanted to do in the window, bar like a world-class left winger. I'd say that Gyökeres arguably the best number 9 in world football for the last couple of seasons with the amount of goals he was scoring. Zubimendi comes in, replaces both Jorginho and Thomas Partey in sort of one player, as well as Norgard coming in to sort of facilitate that experience. We nicked Eze off Spurs, which makes everyone happy. And he from the little sort of highlights and clips that came out, he looked fantastic against Liverpool, sort of driving up, trying to beat his man and take players on. Something that we just haven't lacked, that sort of maverick player that we just haven't had since, well, possibly even like Alexis Sanchez, for example. Going that far back. I'd say on the whole, it's been a strong window for Arsenal. It's just now can they get over the line? Can we go and win something?
I guess it's can the bridesmaids of recent years become the brides, Sam?
Yeah, I have a question, but this could very much create an argument, and I'm very aware that this might create an argument.
This will go down in the Premier League Lowdown group, definitely. Go on,
Mikel Arteta, for example,
yes.
He has now spent nearly about £700 million since he's been at Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of problems, and they've overhauled the squad completely. I fully get that, but I'm going to use Crystal Palace as an example. They've won an FA Cup and a Community Shield. Mikel Arteta, in his 6 years, has won a Community Shield and an FA Cup and spent £700 million. When do we get to a point where you stop trusting the process? Because he has. Let's say you come second again this year, but you win an FA Cup. In my mind, that's a successful season. Football, in my opinion, for Arsenal is about trophies. All about trophies. When you're a club like Arsenal, it's all about trophies. Not coming second. No, like I'm going to use Spurs as an example. Your big rival Spurs. Nobody is going to remember Arsenal coming second last season. Everyone is going to remember Spurs winning the Europa League, and you're in the same competition this year. Last season, as a football fan, I would rather be a Spurs fan than an Arsenal fan because I won a European trophy, and I'm still in the same competition as Arsenal.
Going for the jugular here.
Yeah,
you've gone straight for.
Before you get too riled up, conscious of time. Go on, Brenton.
I think that this is if we come away with second place and nothing this season, I think it is the end of the process. I think it would be it would be realistic to say that you've taken us as far as you can go. We need someone now who can get over the line, and whether that is Arteta this season or whoever takes on from him, I'm to be forever thankful for whatever Mikel Arteta's done for the club. Gone from that sort of dreary spell under Emery to back to where we want to be, pushing for the title. It's now a case of get it over that line.
Ollie Barnes in the chat saying Arsenal won't win anything major with Arsenal. He's holding them back. Two negatives. One of the stats that came through yesterday, he's not won at either Anfield or the Etihad. So that's something there, isn't it? Thank you for joining us, Brandon. You've done a lovely job there covering both the two ends of the spectrum, isn't it? Bristol Rovers, of course, in League Two, and Arsenal. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
And in those 10 minutes, a lot coming in. Obviously, at the hour on 6 o'clock, lots comes through. So to have a quick whiz through those, Jacob Mendy has joined Wrexham, has left Wrexham, on loan to Peterborough. Danny Andrew has gone to Exeter. Ethan Ennis, the Manchester United youngster, has gone to Fleetwood. Looked like he had potential at Doncaster last season. Nowhere near the finished article. But with a full season under his belt, there's no reason why you can't progress. Elliot Moore has left Oxford United by mutual consent. Jay Mengi has gone to Crewe. Scott Banks, he's moved to Blackpool on loan from St. Pauli. Some other ones coming through as well. Tom Glover leaving Middlesbrough and almost instantly replaced with John McLaughlin heading into the Riverside Stadium. West Ham are in talks with Chelsea to sign Axel Disasi on loan, that coming from Sky Sports. So plenty to pick up on there. Any quick thoughts on that before we go on to talk about Bolton?
Jacob Mendy is one I quite like for Peterborough. They need obviously experienced signings. They've got Tom O'Connor, and now they're getting Jacob Mendy. I think they're both from Wrexham as well, so they're just poaching players from a team that got promoted, which is never a bad thing. The only concern I have with Jacob Mendy, I think he's a really good explosive wing back, but he only played 4 times for Wrexham in League One last season. So it's a player that hasn't played a lot of football in the past year, which I personally think is a problem. Like I'll use my club as an example because I know it best. We've got a couple of players who weren't used to playing Saturday, Tuesday, and they've come up with injuries. I think players need to be playing consistently, and that's my big concern for Peterborough. These players haven't been playing consistently at all. And while they may be decent signings, it's going to take them, a month to probably get up to speed. We've got a couple of international breaks in there as well. So I do worry about Peterborough, I must say.
Yeah, it's definitely one. It's a bit of a mess at times, isn't it, Peterborough, with how much of a turnover they have, and it either goes really well or it goes really badly, like it did last season. So an interesting one there. There's been quite a big turnover at Bolton, I beg your pardon. I did promise we'll talk about them after Sarah Lane's super chat. What are your thoughts on Bolton? A nice open question for us. They've had a busy summer, haven't they? Moved on a lot of the more experienced, a lot of the older players, and they brought in a real slew of young quality, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a bit of a different sort of window for Bolton, isn't it? Obviously, last year they were quite an experienced sort of squad, I think it's fair to say. But this summer is a very we're going to bring a lot of youth in. They have struggled at the start of the season, but if you look statistically at the table, which I know it's very early days, they should be higher than they are. By all accounts, they were very good against Stockport on the opening day and just couldn't find that finishing touch. Marcus Falls has come in on loan today. You keep him fit, you've got one of the best attackers in League One, I personally think. And Ryan are the owner of the Football Deck, obviously knows Ethan Harahan extremely well. One of the best holding midfielders 2 years ago, I think it's fair to say, in League One. Struggled a bit with discipline and attitude, definitely. I think it's fair to say, last season. But if you get him
was ready
going,
for his move.
Yeah, and you get him in the right frame of mind, you've got one of the best holding midfielders in League One. You had that next to Xavier Simmons, who was on loan at Wickham last season. So that's a really good midfield duo to protect the back line. So you've got Thierry Gale, Mason Burstow, Sam Dalby. Teddy Sharman-Lowe very well from his time at Doncaster last season.
Very unlucky own goal at the weekend.
Yeah. And then they got Ibrahim Sissoko and Kozia Dewberry. So going forward, I think Bolton are going to create so many chances. It's just whether they can finish them, and they're going to be hoping Mason Burstow and Marcus Falls can provide that finishing touch. And I do expect Bolton to be in the top 6 at the end of the season. I think Stephen Schumacher will be under pressure if they don't get top 6. It's a big investment at Bolton this summer. They've spent, if you go off transfer market, €2 million, and they've made, well, to be fair, they've made roughly the same through Aaron Collins and George Thomason, but £2 million, that when you've got a club that loses £6-7 million a year, them £2 million is quite a lot.
Really pleased with Mason Burstow, one of the comments, that one from Ollie Barnes. Danny Andrew is one I wanted to pick up from the list that come through at 6 o'clock. Well over 500 games in his career. He brings so much experience, and moving to an Exeter team who aren't really short on experience, but you can't go wrong with a player like that, I don't think, even if it's not exclusively for what they do on the field, what they do in the dressing room and off field as well, I think makes a big difference. And that is always a smart signing for a team like Exeter, who we were expecting to be down towards the bottom end of the table. Then that is a good move. We are trying to cobble together something to talk about the League of Ireland. We've had some good questions, so thank you for those about the League of Ireland. And I, for one, and Sam as well, that is far from our speciality. So we're going to try and answer those questions properly for you by getting someone on to discuss that. Ethan Ennis, I spoke about moving to Fleetwood, a decent prospect there. Scott Banks, who's joined Blackpool, has gone to Bloomfield Road, coming from St. Pauli of the Bundesliga. A very random deadline day signing, that one, isn't it? Someone coming from Germany to League One, and it might be a bit of a culture shock for him heading out to Blackpool.
Yeah, very different, but he's by a nice sunny beach, so that will be nice for him. The nice coastal sort of area. And one thing I will say that's just popped into one of our group chats is about Sheffield Wednesday. All of their incoming transfers are on the brink of collapse. All of them.
Wow.
So it gets. I don't know too much about the
Andy Gittins, I think it is. Sheffield.
I don't know too much about the Sheffield Wednesday situation. We try to keep up to date as much as we can. We've got James on in the second half of the show, who's a Swansea fan. Maybe he can light us, give some more light on the Sheffield Wednesday situation being on the Championship Lowdown. It's being from a football club that had an owner, not exactly like him, but an owner that very nearly run the club to bankruptcy and the brink of extinction. It's unacceptable, quite frankly, how billionaires, millionaires can go into a football club that is part of it, the community, that some of people's livelihoods are their football club, and he's just gone in there and he's kind of just taken it all away from them because the fans didn't like him. And this is where the EFL, the FA, but I personally think there's too many football governing bodies. You've got the FA who look after the Premier League in England, and then you've got the EFL that look after the EFL. There should be one governing body that looks after the entirety of football. There's too many governing bodies. And someone needs to step in and grow a pair of balls at Sheffield Wednesday and kick him out. I don't know how you do it, but because of the legal restrictions and everything, but it's completely unacceptable in the modern day how one man can ruin a community and people's livelihoods because they don't like him.
Yeah, it's horrible, really, isn't it? What's happened there? And I know they've had a lot of ins and outs, and it's just been that it feels like it's been constant teasing, hasn't it? That a deal and a takeover is going to happen, and then it's not going to happen. It's been really awful, and it's a situation no club deserves to be in, no club and no fans ever deserve to be in. So really just awful stuff. And obviously Sheffield Wednesday are one of our rivals in terms of Doncaster, and I've not met a Doncaster fan who has any sense who is happy about what's going on there, and no one should be happy about that happening because it could happen to any club, couldn't it? So really horrible stuff continuing at Sheffield Wednesday. A couple of deals for Fulham over the last hour or so. Kevin, who is my most exciting thing there, just so we can shout Kevin. 40 million euros, I beg your pardon. For him moving to Fulham and Chikwekwe a little bit more recently than that, 25 million for him. He's at the Fulham training ground. Those both coming from Fabrizio Romano. With a couple of deals there. They've been a bit late, last minute Larrys, haven't they, with their business? Fulham, Nottingham Forest as well, one for them. Javi Galan, that has been here we go by Fabrizio Romano, a permanent deal from Atletico Madrid. Any thoughts on Fulham in particular? They've had a bit of a nothing window, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a shame because I highly rate Marco Silva as a coach. If they had a deeper squad last year, there's a very high possibility that they'd have got into Europe last year. I think that's my personal opinion. Tyreek George hasn't really proven too much in the Premier League, but Kevin is coming with quite a big reputation, shall we say, from Shakhtar. So, and it's a club record fee as well. So it's nice to see they've backed him in some sort of way, but I just wish Fulham went for it a little bit more. I just feel like they could have done more. There was a chance that Samu Chukwueze would also come in, so which adds to the depth of their front line, which is needed. And I firmly believe if they got another striker, along with all the wingers they're getting, it could be a European contention season for Fulham. But they still need a striker, and we've got 40 minutes for them to get a striker in.
Yeah, so 40 minutes of the window and 10 minutes for us. And we're going to spend a good chunk of those 10 minutes talking about the League of Ireland. And John, it's great to have you on us at very late notice. So thanks for joining us to talk about all things League of Ireland. We've had lots of questions in the chat about them, and we're going to give you free rein really to answer the queries, because myself and Sam, it's not our bag at all. We've had a few questions about Cork City. We've had a lot about Josh Honoran, who's been linked obviously with Lincoln. What's your summaries of things today in terms of the League of Ireland?
Hi lads, thanks very much for having me on. I've been honestly following deadline day all day, so it's nice to be able to give a bit of insight into it myself. So yeah, look, the big story is Josh Honoran. The League of Ireland transfer window actually closed a few weeks ago, so that's why we're not seeing much movement in terms of League of Ireland players, moving. But Josh Honoran, obviously League of Ireland players can still leave their clubs to transfer windows like England if they're still open. So yeah, it looks like Lincoln City are very much in the frame for Josh Honoran. They had a bid of £625,000 pounds, I think, rejected. It's obviously our friend Cornell, who a big regular on our podcast, is a huge Lincoln City fan. So I just think that's very funny how chances that such a big LOI fan from England, that it just happens to be his club, But that's kind of the main story. There's also potential frees. The window is open to free signings. So I think up until 11 o'clock or something tonight, League of Ireland clubs can bring in free signings. But to my knowledge, lads, it's all quiet there. The only real story seems to be Josh Honoran, who scored a terrific goal for Shamrock Rovers yesterday, by the way. So that's kind of the update for the moment.
What do you think is going to happen with that? Obviously, there's not long left. If Lincoln do make that move, they brought in 3 players already today. Do you think it's going to happen?
Personal opinion, and I have no inside sources or anything like that, but I think he'll actually stay because Shamrock Rovers now have a Conference League campaign to face. They got a somewhat favourable draw as well. Me and Jamie Daly covered it on the channel. I actually think he'll stay, and maybe get his move in January. Perhaps he'll, perform well now in the Conference League coming up, and potentially you could look at maybe a Championship club coming in. That's no disrespect to Lincoln. Lincoln are a great club, but my personal opinion, I think he'll stay. But who knows? I think Rovers, this is a fella in the prime of his career, and we've seen youngsters now, leave the League of Ireland for much greater fees than 625,000. So yeah, I don't really see Lincoln having the financial means, as you said, after making so much signings, to cough up what's going to be needed. But who knows? Look, it would be a great move for Honan. So either way, it's win-win for the League of Ireland, really.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln they've sold a lot of players this summer. Joe Makama is one that springs to mind in terms of a player they've got a club record fee in for, so that they have the money to spend if they have enough money, I guess is the question, isn't it? And he's one that's sort of rumbled on. Lincoln are a club, I guess, to ask you finally, John, who a club have dipped into the League of Ireland a good chunk of time. Do you think a Lincoln, or do you think that's going to spread out, that more teams are going to be looking at the League of Ireland and going, oh, there's definitely players here we could be looking at?
Yeah, for sure. The League of Ireland is on the rise from a fan's perspective. There's lots more people interested in it. And I think from a quality perspective as well. So especially big clubs like Shamrock Rovers, who are doing so well now at the moment in Europe and stuff. I don't see why more English clubs and clubs across the continent of Europe, etc., won't look at League of Ireland players. The one that springs to mind, which is why I wouldn't be too eager for Josh Honoran to go just yet, is Neil Ferrugia. He made the move to, I believe, a League One club. I should know the exact club, but I can't quite think of it. But he really didn't kick off at all there. So perhaps Josh Honoran is better off just staying put for a little while and hoping for an even bigger move. But listen, to just finalise and answer your question, yeah, I think definitely clubs can look to the League of Ireland market and see a lot of quality there.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for hopping on, as we said, at such late notice, John, from the LOI Talk podcast. Thanks for coming on.
It's a real pleasure, lads. Thanks for having me. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
So hopefully that answers a lot of the questions we've had in the chat about the League of Ireland. Back in familiar territory for us, Sam, Wickham, Daniel Udo, he's seems to be going to Salford. Interesting one, a permanent deal as well, moving down to League Two. That one, a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, considering Wickham's striking options at the moment and how they've started the season, I'm pretty surprised that they're just letting players, especially in the forward line, go. So maybe we'll expect another one in at Wickham before this 7 o'clock deadline. There's one coming in at Burton in about 5 minutes or so, and we will be handing over in about 5 minutes or so.
Yes, exactly. Signing number 12 on the way at Exeter as well. They're not going to stop after signing Danny Andrews. So there's still stuff to be done before that 7 o'clock deadline. Be interested to see who it is for Burton, what position they're going for. Because they definitely have needed stuff this summer, haven't they, to build themselves back to where they were with losing people like Bodvarsson or Burrell. That they've lost a lot of quality, haven't they, this summer?
Yeah, 100%. And we were very complimentary, I think, of Gary Bowyer on our pre-season in terms of we think that's why Burton will be lower, sort of mid-table. I think the biggest gripe they're going to have they replaced the goals of Burrell? No. And are they going to have a partnership like Burrell and Bodvarsson who complemented each other so well last season? Unless this player they're going to bring in is a brilliant number 9, Burton could struggle until January when probably they'll sack Gary Bowyer and go and get another manager. That's usually what Burton do, isn't it? They'll be in the bottom 4 until Christmas, sack their manager and go get somebody else in.
And some cryptic stuff from Swansea. They posted a picture of the Liberty Stadium lit up in the colours of the Irish flag, and it seems that is Adam Eder, Mark Hendry, who's a journalist up in Scotland, confirming that move from Celtic to Swansea is set to be made official. So a striker coming in for the Swans. I've only got a couple of minutes left here on the live stream, myself and Sam, and then we're going to hand over to Jordan, Kieran and Dan. They will take you to 7 o'clock and beyond. But it's been a very busy hour and a half for us already, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to need to lay down, I think, after this. Like, it's been non-stop. Like, you're at work and all you see are these tweets coming through from Fabrizio Romano, David Orstein, or whatever other accounts there are nowadays. It's like, I just want a quick roundup of all the transfers. I don't want to have to scroll through 500,000 tweets of every transfer that's going on. It's probably been the most chaotic deadline day that I can remember for a very long time. And I don't know if it's this earlier deadline of 7 o'clock. I don't know if that has something to do with it. I still personally want to see the transfer window closed the day before the first game of the season. They did it 1 year, didn't they? And then they've just not done it again.
I think it's an interesting thought, isn't it? And it's something that would definitely change how teams do business. There'll be none of this sort of last minute rushing around to get players in. Mark Gahey, this one coming from Lewis Steele, who is a Merseyside reporter for the Mail. The deal on and off like a light switch, which I think is a nice way of summarising that. And that's a nice sort of microcosm of the day as a whole, isn't it? We've had a lot of deals on and off, and a lot of the stuff we talked about at the very start at 5 o'clock of the big news coming for the Premier League, they haven't been decided yet. They're all sort of deals that we're expecting, and everything looks like they are going to happen, but they're not over the line just yet. And you never know. Half an hour to go. If those deal sheets aren't over the line before the deadline, then those deals are off and those players are staying at their clubs. Yeah,
100%. And I wish Jordan, Dan and Kieran good luck in the last half an hour, because I think a lot is about to kick off, quite frankly. A lot of clubs leave theirs till just before 7 o'clock and let's just announce everything. Like, we've got to remember, Ishak hasn't announced it either, from what I've seen. So that's something to talk about. We're going to have I reckon I'm going to go with at least 30 transfers across the top 2 divisions that they get to talk about. So, Jamie, it's now time for you to go and rest your weary head now as we bring on Dan. So, Jamie, thank you very much for coming on. And now we'll bring on Dan from the National League Lowdown podcast.
Hi, mate. You okay?
Not bad, thank you, Dan. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Been a hectic day, hasn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit. We've got a nice fresh mind now to take us through to the end and beyond. Obviously, you're a Carlisle United fan. How's your summer been in terms of recruitment?
Yeah, really good actually. It's quite weird because obviously Carlisle have just dropped into the National League. It's been 20 years since we've been in there, so it was quite weird to see us just get all our business done quite quickly. So we've not really signed anyone in the last few weeks. It's all been done quite early on. It's quite nice to see, and I heard obviously what you just said to Jamie there about the window potentially should be getting closed before the season starts, and I would go along with that because it means teams get the business in order and there's not all this running around, this manic nature of the final day. And I always say any team that isn't doing any business on the final day are the teams that are probably doing very well, because they're the teams that don't need to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, I can see a lot of Manchester United things behind you as well. We've got a United fan coming on later, so I'm sure you and George, who's coming on, can have a lovely discussion about the disaster that is your goalkeeping department at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave that for him to talk about. I try not to get drawn on it too much. Man United's my dad's team. I got brought up going to Old Trafford and things like that, but I live in Carlisle. Carlisle's my team, so I have a few opinions on the goalkeeping situation, but we'll save that for another time.
Lovely stuff. Right, I'll leave you guys to it, and you can introduce your next two hosts. So, Jordan and Kieran.
Yeah.
Oh, that was superb, may I add.
Hi guys, welcome to the Transfer Deadline Live. Jordan, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It's great to see you, and you, Kieran. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been a relatively chill day for me. Of course, deadline day is never chill as it is anyway, but when you're sat in the position of what Grimsby are in at the minute, where we don't really need to do an awful lot, it's quite a nice feeling. And just seeing all these transfers go through as well. Of course, a lot to be done in the next half an hour and beyond. So we're in for the long haul. I think we are with some of these that's going on. But no, I'm excited. Great to do it again.
Yeah, no, good to see you as well, mate. Nice to do a show with you. Kieran, long time no see, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. I'm in a very precarious position for my own team regarding transfers. We've supposedly been after players for the past 3 weeks. No news. Yet, as recent as 15 minutes ago, a tweet has come out from the guy who basically does all the press and stuff from Newport to expect at least 2 additions before the 7 o'clock deadline. So, as basically we have mentioned and has been mentioned many a times, I'm expecting to see 2 new Newport additions at 1 minute to 7. So
we'll keep our eyes peeled. We'll keep our eyes peeled for 6:59. But yeah, no, I was just saying there to Sam when I joined in. I was just like, I think with Carlisle dropping into non-league, it's really made me appreciate getting your business done early. Like Carlisle just got all their business done early on. Regan Linney coming in, Josh Grant, Morgan Feeney. There was a lot of players came in early, and we're not rushing around on deadline day for a change. It actually made me appreciate it, as silly as that sounds.
How much of an eye-opener has it been? Because obviously us spending time in non-league as well, we know full well.
Yeah, it's been hectic. I would say that. I don't think National League Lowdown's produced as many podcasts as it has in the last few weeks, because we've had a game every Saturday, Tuesday, pretty much since the start of the season. It's been super busy, but like I say, a lot of the clubs do seem to have got the business done early. There hasn't been a great deal done today, but I have just seen a post put out recently that potentially Ollie Pearce might be on his way to Port Vale. So that could be one to watch out for in the next half an hour. 2-year deal. Obviously, the goals he scores is unbelievable in non-league, and I think he will do well at Port Vale. But it'd be a massive miss for York, and York potentially in a bit of trouble. They've obviously sacked the manager, brought in Maynard that was at Notts County, but they are generally looking like they're in a bit of trouble at the moment.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Just seen, obviously by the comment there, Wrexham have released George Evans. He'd still do a job at League Two, surely. Obviously, if anyone in the chat has any comments, they do appear on screen. Make sure to give your thoughts on your clubs or just some of the interesting transfers going on as we approach, let's be fair, the final 25 minutes of the deadline day. In news, this was being mentioned in the end of the last segment. Adam Ida has joined Swansea City from Celtic. I think that one's probably the least of anyone's surprise. Gillingham of League Two have signed Johnny Smith on a season-long loan from Wigan. I think that one's been kind of in the circle for the past few days. It's an interesting addition. I think for the first time in a good while, we're saying that Gillingham have quite a few attacking outlets to their team because, as we know in recent years, they've struggled to find the back of the net. So that's a good signing within itself.
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen there as well. Rasmus Højlund confirmed to Napoli. Again, as a my Premier League team's Man United. So as a part-time Man United fan, I would say that is a good move for him. I think he got a bit of a raw deal at United, to be honest. You could put anyone up for them. R9 could be up there. Cristiano Ronaldo struggled when he was there. Just the lack of chances. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes to Napoli and bangs them in Serie A this season.
It's a league you know as well, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Because obviously the Man United signed him from Italy. It was Atalanta, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
think that's not him from. So maybe a year under Conte might do him the world of good if he can go there firing, score a few goals, and help win loads of games for Napoli and come back a better player. We'll have to see how he does. But I think it's a sensible move all around. I think for him and for United, I think it was one that needed to happen, really.
Yeah, it's weird when he joined. Obviously, everyone was going, he's going to do really well. He's a budget Haaland in a way. Obviously, it hasn't quite worked out that way. But you've seen the likes of Scott McTominay move over to the Serie A, and he's in contention for a Ballon d'Or somehow. So if he can do it, let's be fair, anyone can. Within other news, Niall Huggins has joined Wickham on loan from Premier League outfit Sunderland. It's a decent signing. I think he was always going to be backup, wasn't he? So it's nice to see him get a little bit of game time. And let's be fair, could we see Wickham get towards those playoff positions again?
I mean, they've not started that great, have they? So
yeah. I think they needed recruitments, and that one is very. I think that one is a very good statement. He hasn't done too bad in the Championship himself, so going down to a league lower than that is very interesting. There's. I mean, Sarah was mentioning this earlier that I am quite literally sat here scrolling through Twitter. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of tweets regarding players who have moved clubs and all this stuff. And annoyingly, they've all come about an hour ago. So they would have all been covered up to now.
Yeah, I mean, I said that all day. I've just been scrolling through Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein, finding out what's going on. But obviously, they're both just repeating each other, aren't they? So you end up scrolling through double the amount you actually need to.
You go through double the amount, but then, I'm sat here and Sambi Lokonga has left. This was 2 hours ago. That would have been semi-relevant. There's a load of transfers that are mega old, but they're quite big deals in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about the transfer window this summer, and there seems to be a lot of players that have gone for what I would call inflated prices. There's some that I've really questioned. I feel like Wissa to Newcastle for 55 million. I think he's 29 years old. He's got 1 year left on his deal. That just feels like a big overpayment, in my opinion. But maybe you guys have got a different view on that. I'm not sure.
Who was the other striker they bought? They bought some German fella, didn't they? They played.
Yeah, from Stuttgart for 7. Was that 75 million euros?
I think it's something around that, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I think they certainly needed a striker. I mean, they've got him, and it sounds like they're going to get Vissa. Obviously, with Isak, looking like he's on his way to Liverpool. But I think I'll be honest. When the news came up, no disrespect to him, I've never heard of him. It was just sort of one of those that just sort of popped up out of nowhere. But look, he may be good, he may be not. I think it's certainly a risk with the money we spend. But I totally agree with you with the. It just feels like it's just going to keep going up every year. I feel this isn't just a one-time thing.
Thanks.
I think the Newcastle panicking, which is an element of that. Maybe I don't know.
Big thanks to Sarah, by the way, for the £5 donation on Super Chat. Much appreciated. We've just seen that Eric Ten Hag, of course, after 2 Bundesliga games, has been dismissed of his duties, which is, to be honest with you, one of the shorter managerial spells in recent memory. Supposedly, he's fired back at Leverkusen.
Can I claim something?
Go on.
Ten Hag has been sacked today. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked the other day. So is Jose Mourinho. Grimsby Town beat Man United the other day, and it's a shame that Ruben Amorim haven't gone yet either. Can I claim Grimsby Reaper on that?
Sure, go for him.
I feel like there had to be a catalyst for it somewhere. So yeah, Grimsby could be.
So
good
the
enough for
exact
me.
statement that Ten Hag has said, he has said, unfortunately, the management was just not willing to grant me the time and trust I needed, which I deeply regret. I feel this was never a relationship based on mutual trust. That's just some of the part of the statement. And what he did at Man United, right, he has been given plenty of time to bring in so many players he's worked with before. Don't get me wrong, in terms of how Amarin started, he didn't actually start off that bad. Couple of trophies here and there, nothing major, but yeah, very underwhelming. And evidently, it's kind of worked out the same with Leverkusen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Ten Hag fan after some of the dross that he signed and left at United, to be honest. But I would say he's joined Leverkusen. They've sold all their best players this summer, replaced them with players like Jarell Kwanzaa and people like that. And they've lost Frimpong, Wirtz, people like that. I think maybe he's been dealt a bit of a bad hand, in my opinion. I'm not sure if I try and look at it objectively.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think going on that statement, I mean, yes, Wirtz, Frimpong, always going to be hard to replace, two cracking players. But obviously, 2 games for a manager. I mean, we're really in that stage now. I know, what was it? Was it that De Boer had at Palace? It was like 4 games, wasn't it? It was even less than that. It's just not long enough, is it? Of course, there's maybe there must have been something else to it. I think there's got to be if that's the case. But
it was a poorish start, to my knowledge. 1 point from 2 games, something like that. Which for Leverkusen standard over recent years, I suppose is very poor. But I don't think you can judge a manager off of 2 games. Maybe he's built that kind of untrustworthy reputation during his spending sprees at United. But even so, there's a manager there. You know, he's getting attracted by those kind of clubs for a reason. That's not going to happen, you know, just out the blue. I'm not going to lie, I'm scrolling through all of this. You've had Ollie Cooper has joined Wigan Athletic. That was many of hours ago. I quite like Ollie Cooper. He was in part of our team season. We got the playoffs. Remembers all the good times in recent memory, because there's not been many good times to brag on in the past 24 months.
Yeah, I mean, some of the standout transfers for me today that I've noticed was that Jadon Sancho potentially going to Aston Villa on a loan. I've seen Harvey Elliott as well potentially for Aston Villa. I think if they can get Sancho firing, who knows? Again, we've got a Man United fan coming on. We'll ask him what he thinks of Sancho. But obviously, Harvey Elliott, I think, is an astute signing. He's not going to get much game time at Liverpool. Potentially, if that goes through, that could plug a gap in the midfield for Villa after a really bad result last night.
Yeah, he could do well, but you know, I'd rather leave most of that conversation to when we've got the other United fan, because I'm sure you two will have many more opinions and many more factual opinions than me and Jordan will have, despite Jordan's recent love for Man United, I suppose.
Love. I mean, certainly not again. It will be more just laughter. I'm gonna have to try and hold it in. Look, I've not got over it. My throat is still sore, and it's got worse, if anything, than it has better. If you heard the FTF pod yesterday.
I need to have a gander just to have a listen. In other news,
it was a shambles. It hurts.
Devante Cole has joined Port Vale, or he is set to, after cancelling his contract at West Brom. So they're looking to strengthen in hopes to obviously survive the drop from getting promoted last season. You've got the Lincoln director of football mentioning that there may be another coming in at Lincoln. They've signed 3 today. And
Justin Abiku was 1, which was interesting to see. Yeah, he's dead to me now. Yeah, Justin with that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of news coming out from a lot of things here. Like we've said, we're in the final 15 minutes, and the amount of clubs I'm now seeing with tweets suggesting that they may be about to make transfers, there's probably too many of them for me to list them now. I take up the 15 minutes of time we've got left of the window. But yeah, there's going to be a lot to catch up on, obviously. Like we have mentioned, you want to get involved with the discussion and we've missed out a transfer, make sure to get your comments in, and they do appear on screen, so we'll be able to discuss them a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, just to round up some of the ones that caught my eye today, I thought Tariq Lamptey from Brighton to Fiorentina. He was a mainstay in that Brighton side for a good few years. Obviously, he's fell out of favour. I think that could be a good move for him to Serie A. Like I mentioned, Harvey Elliott as well. I think that's a bit of a standout one. I've seen Leeds were in talks with Fulham for Harry Wilson. Again, I think that could potentially be a really good transfer because Wilson he always seems to come off the bench and do well for Fulham, but he never seems to start that many games. So again, they're real ones that have stood out to me today. Obviously, you've got your Isaks, your Gahey, people like that everyone's talking about, but there's certain other ones that I think have gone under the radar due to the size of the Isak transfer fee and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it here. Oh, we've disappeared. I've disappeared
Oh, we're
potentially
back.
for a second, or we disappeared. Either way, it's deadline day. We'll have these moments. We've got Jeremy Sarmiento, I believe it is. I believe that's his name. The one from Brighton. He has joined Cremonese on loan for the season.
With Jamie Vardy then.
I was just about to say that,
yeah.
Which is also
that's an interesting move, right there.
I think that's a signing that also has went very much under the radar in terms of, Premier League transfers, because we've seen that he's got quality there. He just needs regular game time, and to do it with the likes of, again, Jamie Vardy, that's another transfer that I think has probably been ignored, because you look at the top tier, there's one signing everyone's waiting for, and if it is to happen, it's going to be confirmed within the next 13 minutes or so, and it'll be good fun. But I'm still waiting, by the way. We are past 2:45. We have less than 15 minutes. I'm still waiting for these Newport signings. They are cutting this very short, I must admit. They are cutting this very short. I don't like it.
As for
don't panic just yet.
Yeah. It does sound like Grimsby have signed one, definitely. There is strong rumours that there could be another one. But it does sound like we do have a goalkeeper coming in. Of course, that's not been confirmed yet. So we'll have to see on that. As 15, what was it? Less than 15 minutes to go. Nearly 7 o'clock. This feels weird, doesn't it? It's not like the 11 o'clock.
It doesn't. This does not feel like...
Kieran, we've been on late doing this before, haven't we?
Yeah. So...
It doesn't have that same vibe to it.
It doesn't. No. Still, there's some signings going on here. So you've got Burnley have signed Floriento Luis on a season-long loan from Benfica with an option to buy. I can't say I know much about him, but I'm not going to lie with you. Based on how the Premier League has started, Burnley kind of need anything they can get. So whether it's a panic decision or not is yet to be confirmed. Anthony to Real Betis looks to also be done. Obviously, he had that really good spell there previously, so it's very, I suppose, good in a way that he's going to be able to get to a club where we can actually see his form.
Felt sort of inevitable that will happen at some point, that one. I just had that feeling all along, because he obviously did well there, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that they were kind of just arguing over money, really. I think in the end, it's come to pass because he done so well there, like you say. And I've just thought there as well. Obviously, we're saying about the deadline closing at 7, but sometimes clubs can get special dispensation, get sheets filled in, and it can go past the deadline if they've got certain bits done, sign other bits of paperwork, and it still can go through afterwards. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's some that haven't gone through by 7, but we're still getting them announced at 10 to 9, things like that. I remember that happening years back with Berbatov to Man United. It was meant to be 11 o'clock. I think it got announced at 1 a.m. in the morning. Just certain ones like that, because like I say, the paperwork is there to be filled in if they think they can get it done, but it just needs that extra push.
Yeah,
so long as that deal sheet is in by the deadline, obviously all of the media and all of that stuff can take place afterwards, which is, I suppose, a good bit of the reason that we are on past the deadline, because you would imagine there will be deals going on later on. And that now worries me, that we've got 2 players sorted, but we're going to spend the next 2.5 hours doing media, or 1.5 hours actually, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the latest we can go in terms of players coming to and fro is 9 o'clock in terms of all of this getting finalised and all that stuff. We're doing 2 hours after the deadline. But League Two news, we've got a Harrogate Town signing on the way, which is going to be interesting. Obviously, they're going into, I don't know, their bazillionth season in this division. So it'll be very interesting to see who they bring in and what kind of profile of player they've been able to attract.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've just seen there the details that come in afterwards are personal terms, intricate details, so it would be travel and things like that. But obviously, the actual signing has to happen. The contract has to be signed, and obviously, it's just like a registration request. But the media, to be fair, I always think you could just do it tomorrow, you know. Like, but obviously, you know what football teams are like these days. It's all in the media, isn't it? So they'll want a special welcome video holding up the shirt. They want it all to go all simultaneously together, don't they?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. This is the thing. You want to be able to do that within. You know, you want to be able to have that all out by a certain time for the sake of algorithm and all that stuff and how social media works. But we did mention George Evans. Obviously, had left Wrexham. He has joined Burton Albion on a 1-year deal. This was announced about 20 minutes ago.
Seems like a pretty smart addition.
That's a very smart addition in my eyes. I think that, you know, he's got that experience. He's got that. Whether Burton will be aiming for, whether they'll be able to realistically get promotion is a different question. But they have got that player there who knows how to do it. So just off the basis of having a stable season, that's a very, very smart signing. To my knowledge, Burton have, I think it's 2 loan spots remaining within that 5. So potentially there's the there's the chance there that they could have a few more in. We know how many signings Burton like to make usually, so it's going to be very interesting to see if they're able to get that kind of stuff done.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw they signed Alex Hartridge earlier, wasn't it? Again,
So,
yeah, pretty smart addition. And there was one clip that was shared. I think when Hartridge was doing his interview, I think it was like a news sign, just sort of trying to, right, okay, he's filming the interview. He's like, right, okay, quick, no, don't see me. That was well done that. Well done there. That's your typical deadline day right there. The stuff.
We absolutely love deadline day. Again, listen, we had this talk about whether deadline day should be the day before the season starts or it should be before the first game of the season. If we're going to do a deadline day during the season, I do not want the deadline being 7 o'clock. It is not right. I want to be awake until 12 p.m. looking at news that, you know, some team in National League have signed someone from the 8th tier. I want to be able to see that kind of stuff.
Although they're in the National League window at the minute.
You could still get that, Kieran. It just won't be on deadline day.
I suppose we can still get it. I forget there's different rules, isn't there, when it comes to National League. But listen, I want to see the Grimsby Town have signed someone from Finland, for example. I want to see that at 12 o'clock. I don't want to see it at 7 p.m.
I mentioned a couple of days ago, apparently, I think it was either The Guardian or The Athletic that said it, but apparently we tried signing a player from the Czech League this summer. So take that.
I'm not surprised. You know, we have the Welsh League. You have any Scandinavian country.
We've dipped into Iceland and the Faroe Islands.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys interest me, truth be told.
I feel like you will unearth a gem, though. You know, there might be a couple of ones that maybe don't reach expectation, but there'll always be a cracking signing somewhere that no one's heard of, and then potentially there's a sell-on value if he does really well and things like that. So I totally see the logic behind dipping into that kind of market.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with, it's not even just the Scandinavian market or anything like that. I think more of the sort of route we've taken is more younger players that have maybe been in good academies and have not really hit the heights of men's football. And we've given them a chance and they flourish here. I mean, George McKechnie is your big example. It's astonishing. It looks like we're going to be keeping him, to be quite honest. I'm surprised there's not been more interest because he deserves to be playing much higher up. But look, I don't mind it. I'm pleased with it because he's unplayable on his day. It's just little things like that where we like to give younger players a chance and we've got a manager that will develop them. So There you go, really.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Let's be, especially when you look at these kind of lower down ranked leagues, it's going to be a you're going to get them for cheaper as well. But that being said, we look at the Premier League and the Championship and whatnot. Do we reckon it may be time to have a look at some of these tables, have a look at teams need certain additions? Obviously, I can pop out very quickly while we show some of the tables from some of the divisions, and you guys can go through, review some signings, and see how it's kind of going from there.
Yeah. Bear in mind, shortly.
There we go.
Right, the Premier League. Let's have a look at this then. Yeah, I mean, Liverpool, I don't think there's really much to say, really, with the money they've spent.
Yeah, I mean, I did post a comment into Sam earlier and just said, like, if they don't win the league this year, it feels like a massive failure with the amount of money that they've spent. And the transfer window itself is probably the best transfer window I think I've seen in a long time in terms of bringing people in. They've pretty much covered every base, spent an absolute fortune. If they don't win the league, I feel like people won't be happy in the Liverpool camp.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's been a much needed. I think it's been a much needed. I say much needed refresh. I mean, they did incredibly well last year, but they're only just looking for the future, and that's so you can really put it like, really. Let's have a look at some of these other teams. I mean, Chelsea have been obviously busy again. I mean, like Garnacho could come in, a couple of strikers in Delap. I know he's just got injured, and Charles Pedro's another one who started off life really well there. I mean, some of these other teams, Sunderland have been incredibly busy. We can point out a lot of theirs, but I think Granit Xhaka is the main one, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Incredible experience from them, and it's stuff like that will keep them in the Premier League if they do. And yeah, some of the others. I mean, Man City have got done a run on the way. They've been busy with like Cherky and Reinders. A couple of others, Forest have been busy again, and there's some others which haven't been that great. I probably do look at Newcastle, to be honest. They've obviously, I think they've been dealt a dab hand, obviously, with the Isak one, but we'll have to see. I mean, this has done all right with Brentford. At least it's someone with Premier League experience. It's just some of the other stuff. I know that the clubs are tied to like PSR or whatever it is. Villa have sort of had that problem, but they've got a couple of additions on the way with Sancho, and I really like the Harvey Elliott signing actually.
Yeah.
So any others that maybe catch your eye from?
I mean, for me, I worry a little bit for Brentford. Just in general, that lost Wissa, lost Mbuemo, lost Norgard, lost the keeper, lost the manager. They've replaced him with Keith Andrews, who obviously I remember as a player, MK Dons, Blackburn, but largely inexperienced as a manager. Big risk. Had a bit of a shaky start to the season. I do worry for them a little bit, I think, in terms of just the season in general, and Wolves as well, losing Cunha. I mean, if they can keep Strand Larson, I know Jamie and Sam talked about that earlier, but that's a big win for them if they can keep him. If they lose him, then I think they're in trouble as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll get George on in a minute as we talk about Man United, so I won't touch on them too much. I mean, I've not really seen much at West Ham either. Truth be told, I mean, Hermansen I've not been sold on, and I certainly haven't considering his first few performances. And just a couple of other additions like that, but not really.
I think keeping Lucas Paqueta is a big deal for West Ham, because Villa apparently wanted him, and that was his celebration yesterday when he kissed the badge in front of the fans, and it was kind of a bit of a "I'm staying, don't worry" kind of thing. Because I think he's quality, and I think obviously he's had his off the field issues, but I think if he can get a regular run in the team, he'll be integral in West Ham having a decent season, I would say, because they've had a bit of a shaky start.
Yeah, to go with the kids, it was a cold celebration because it wasn't just kissing the badge. He sort of did like a little phone thing. I like that. That was cool. I mean, we've got the Championship table up there. Middlesbrough have obviously started well under life with Rob Edwards. There's a few additions for them. Ipswich have been very busy. They've been very busy today with outgoings. I'm not sure it's really made much of an impression with my Ipswich supporting mate, who's not impressed. Sheffield United rooted to the bottom with 0 points, a complete change of direction from them. I still debate if it's the correct one. Obviously, Sellers from going on to Ruben Sellers for Chris Wilder. I think it was always going to have that element of risk to it. And even Sheffield Wednesday are above them at the minute and have picked up more points than them, considering all the troubles that they've had quite recently. Looking at League One, obviously Cardiff has started life really well. They're top of League One. I mean, they've been busy. I mean, Doncaster Rovers, I'm not surprised to see Donny doing well, actually. I'm really not. I thought they were really good in League One last year. Same with League Two last year, sorry. I mean, Bradford, I sort of am a little bit. But they play some terrific stuff at times, Bradford. I don't think they get the credit they deserve. And then you look at Posh, at Peterborough at the bottom. I think they've got a certain way they do transfers. And I just feel like, look, starting to run out a little bit. I know they've been busy today. I think they've needed to be. But yeah, they've not been convincing at all. They weren't really last year. I think maybe the cup win over Birmingham might have saved the season a little bit. Any particular notes from them at all for you?
Yeah, I mean, I just on Doncaster, I feel like they were one of the best teams Carlisle played last season in League Two. Molyneux in midfield, Jordan Gibson, ex-Carlisle, some really good players, and I'm not surprised to see them starting well this season at all. Obviously, they've done well in the Cup as well, which is good. Peterborough, from the outside looking in, it's just weird seeing them down the bottom because I always associate them with being there or thereabouts in that league, whether it's playoffs or just outside or automatic promotion, things like that. So it's a bit of a surprise to see them struggling, but it is still early days and they might turn it around. But it feels today with some of the transfers they've made that they may be panicking a little bit and they're bringing too many in at once. Maybe, but that's, it's just me speculating. But yeah, we're going to bring George in, I think, for Man United now. We'll get George's thoughts.
Always a bit of entertainment talking about Man United, isn't there?
It always gives me a good laugh, anyways.
And certainly myself after the week we've had. So I'm not going to mention. I'm not going to mention it anymore. You've heard me.
All right, guys. Unrelated, but the window has officially closed. So
yes,
obviously we do have the news. For example, Blackpool are making a signing at 8 p.m. Obviously, like we have mentioned, we kind of have 2 hours now, if there's any paperwork that has gone over, to kind of see if there's any new additions and any new arrivals. But that being said, I think it's time for you guys to have a little emotional therapy session talking Man United, because I think this one's much needed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jordan's already got it in about the midweek with Grimsby. Felt like a big win at the weekend against Burnley. Obviously, the signing of Lamans, the goalkeeper, seems like a big move as well. Just what's your thoughts on how Man United have started the season, George? Like, obviously, Grimsby was very disappointing, but even just the league form and the way they're playing at the moment, it's a bit worrying, isn't it?
I mean, what you'll learn about me is that I'm generally quite an optimistic United fan. And look, a few years ago, it was at the point in which I thought, oh yeah, we'll win the league this season. No, it's stepped down a little bit from that. And I've got a little bit of realism. But I think there's lots of positives actually to take from the start of this season. You take the Grimsby game out of it because I'm calling that a one-off. Look, it was awful. I mean, you have got to give us credit for coming back into the game, but it is against a League Two side. So let's keep the Grimsby game out of it for now. Let's focus on those Premier League games, because the Premier League is where we massively struggled last year. And that opening and Arsenal game, look, we said it. United are so inconsistent. They have been so often for so many years. And it was always going to be a question of, can they carry this performance from the Arsenal game, which was fantastic, by the way. And of course, the only reason we've lost that game is a goalkeeping error. And we've had so many chances. I mentioned on the Premier League Lowdown yesterday on the review that the difference this season, and the really positive thing to take, is that United are actually creating chances. We didn't do that last year. The next step is to start converting them. And look, there's been some fantastic goalkeeper performances. You look at David Raya in that Arsenal game. There's been some just pure moments of unluckiness. You look at Cunha hitting the post against Fulham, Bruno skying his penalty. Look, that's on him at the end of the day, not the referee. But still, we could have been 2 or 3-0 up at half time in that game. And then you look at the Burnley game, there's so many chances. You look through that. And that's something that we didn't do last year. We didn't create those chances for the players to put away. And I think that's a big talking point with Sesko as well, because a problem we've had at United for years is not creating the service for a striker. And now we've got a striker that can actually
put the ball in the back of the net. He's shown he can do it in the Bundesliga. It's not a bad league at all. Let's be honest. There's an opportunity to almost right those wrongs of the last few years with the striker situation. So I really hope we can get him firing. And I think there's more positives to take from the start of this season than there are negatives.
Yeah, I mean, for me with Sesko, I think that I like the variety of goals he's scored. He's not just a one-trick pony. He doesn't need it all laid on a plate for him. He can score bits of individual brilliance, which is something that Man United do rely on sometimes when they're not creating, which is Bruno or somebody like that to try and unlock the door with a 30-yard screaming in the top corner, something like that. So it's good that Sesko's got that in his locker, but I do think with a massive, upgrade in the transfer window, so Garnacho and Rashford and Sancho leaving, and if you'd said to me in the summer that they were replacing them with Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko, you'd be thinking that's a massive upgrade, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And I think there's something quite big about actually getting that Deadwood out. And the fact that we've managed to do it, the fact that we've managed to shift Sancho is massive. And look, I know it's on a loan, and I know that there's still going to be that thing come next year of, right, do we extend his contract to try and get some money out of him? Look, I hope he tears it up at Villa. I think it's the perfect move for him. A little bit like Grealish. Here's his chance to show who he is, to have that freedom, to not have the spotlight on him like he has for the last few years. And look, his attitude is a massive problem, but here's a chance for him to change that and actually secure himself a good move for the future, because he's not a young player. He's not an old player. He's still got quite a few years left in him. Rashford's obviously gone to Barcelona, and we'll see what happens with that. The fact that Antony's gone on a permanent is massive. The fact that we've actually managed to shift the Deadwood, though, which we've not managed to do over the past few years, and the fact that Amorim's in charge, and he said, right, I'm not having these players from the start of the window. We knew this from May, June time, that he said, no, we're not having any of this rubbish. I'm not reintegrating them like Ten Hag did with Sancho. We're getting them out and we're doing something new. And that's massive, because the problems at United come from the top, from the Glazers. It trickles down. We see it in the attitudes of the players. We need something in that attitude to change. And Amorim, fair play to him, is trying to do that with the approach that he's taken. So I'm really pleased with that. And look, we've brought in some fantastic players as well. So lots of exciting things to come, I think.
Yeah, it's obviously, again, a massive positive getting rid of the Deadwood, like you say, because that's something United have just never done since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. They've been stuck with people from previous regimes. I mean, I would still argue you've still got potentially Luke Shaw, people like that if he's fit, great, but he just can't be relied on because he can't stay fit. So he's probably one of the last ones now of the previous regimes that you'd maybe say you would move on. I've just seen there that Harry Amas has gone to Sheffield Wednesday. I'm assuming that's on a loan. That's a good deal. That's a really good deal for him, I think, because he obviously played the back end of last season for United, and I think he did impress, but he looked a little bit, I don't know, on the light side. He was getting shrugged off the ball quite easily. So obviously that's a big move for him. So it's good that Amorim's dipping into the youth and taking interest. And, that's a lot what like Sir Alex Ferguson did, obviously.
Yeah, I think there's something about using that youth, which we've seen from him. There's such a hype about United's youth. I mean, there has been for years, but at the moment, it seems like we've really got something. I'm thinking back to 10 years ago in that Van Gaal era where we had some fantastic players coming through, and some didn't quite materialise. But then you look at Rashford and Lingard, and we got some great years out of them. And you've got players in that academy now. I mean, Chido Obi, for one, I know we signed him from Arsenal, but he looks like a player who could and very much has the potential to tear it up. And the one thing that I would have liked to see is him go on loan to a Championship side, even a League One side, just to toughen him up a little bit, because he's got the build in terms of the pace and the height of him. But if he can get some strength about him in a proper physical league like one of those EFL ones, then that could just give him that cutting edge in the Premier League games when he makes a few appearances. He's looked good in them for a 17-year-old striker, but he definitely needs to step up a level, and we're not expecting him to be the level of a Premier League striker because he's so young. But if he's going to realise his potential, then if we can have that early, that would be fantastic. So I would have loved to see him potentially go out on a loan. But the fact that Amas is gone, the fact that a couple other players from the academy that are pretty hyped is positives as well. So yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing in terms of the way that we've gone about things. It's not perfect. It's not been with United for years. but it's an improvement. And I think that's what we've got to focus on. It's not going to be perfect with the regime that we've got, but it's an improvement. That's the key thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that obviously with United, the expectations there. So obviously they brought Lamans in, the goalkeeper, young keeper. In my opinion, probably can't be any worse than what Onana's been. Bayinder's a little bit better than Onana, but even still, it's still a bit shaky. Obviously, it's a lot of pressure on young shoulders. How do you think he's going to do?
I'm really excited. And do you know what? When I saw the stuff this morning about Martinez coming out, obviously it came out a bit yesterday, but then this morning it looked like, oh, hang on, this is actually going to happen. And do you know what? I wanted Martinez because I think I said this yesterday on the Premier League Lowdown. To be a Man United goalkeeper, you've got to have some balls. And Martinez has got some. He's got that character about him that doesn't care what people think. He can be on the big stage. He's done it for Argentina in the World Cup. He's gone in front of the Stretford and done whatever he did when Bruno skied a penalty against Aston Villa a few years ago. He's that big game mentality, and he's the player that if he's not on your team, you absolutely hate. But if he's on your team, a little bit like Bruno, is a really good thing to have. And I just think that experience, even though he's 32 nearly 33, goalkeepers are a little bit different in that age bracket. So I would have liked to see Martinez come in, but Lamans, like you say, he can't be any worse, surely, than Onana and Bayindir. And look, I'm someone who's backed Onana and given him the benefit of the doubt for a long time. And then I saw a highlight reel of all the mistakes the other day, and I thought, oh my word, it's done now, surely. You see the Grimsby mistake, and you see Bayindir again, that second goal against Burnley. So I think there's lots of potential there, and a real opportunity for him to step in to the big shoes of being a Man United goalkeeper. It is a lot of pressure for such a young player. But, I mean, look, Man United haven't had one of those steals for a long, long time, I feel like, where we've just gone and found almost a hidden gem. And, hey, this could be one of them. It's all hypotheticals, but if it is, then we've done a really good bit of business.
Yeah, it feels like he could be the goalkeeper for a long time if he is successful. I'm old enough to remember when Peter Schmeichel retired, and we ended up just picking bad goalkeeper after bad goalkeeper for about 5 years until they found Van der Sar. So again, it's you have to, sometimes you just have to pick the wrong ones, and then you'll eventually land on the right one.
That's it. If we can find that consistency, and the fact that he's only 23, goalkeepers, Van der Sar played until he was 40. You got Buffon playing until he was 45. You've got at least 12 to 15 years out of a goalkeeper if they're top level. And that could be crucial, because what we've not had at United is consistency. And that's what we need, especially in that goalkeeping area. I think one of the biggest struggles for teams in the Premier League is that consistency in goal. And once you can find that goalkeeper, a little bit like Alisson at Liverpool, who's their mainstay, they can rely on him. It just brings a calmness to the whole team. And how many times over the last few seasons have we seen a little bit of frolicking in that Man United defence when the ball's getting pinged into the box and you're not quite confident in Onana to get rid of it, and look, it goes here, there, and everywhere. And half the time it ends up in the back of the net. So if you can have consistency and confidence in your goalkeeper, that just massively helps the whole team out. So I really hope that you can have a solid start. Whether it'll be thrown in against Man City in a couple of weeks' time, we'll see. I mean, look, that would be a baptism of fire, wouldn't it? And I mean, almost a really good opportunity, because there is the pressure on him, but he is such a young goalkeeper that it's almost that thing of, City are a team that are going to have shots if they play the way that they can, if they play at their best. We've not seen it in the last couple of games, but it's almost an opportunity for a goalkeeper to look really good. I remember with Onana a few years ago, it was that first game of 23-24 against Man City, and he had a storming game. And it was just after he'd saved the penalty against Copenhagen, and it almost redeemed him for a few months after he'd had a bit of a shaky start. And it's just that opportunity. Can that spark be lit to make a flame and give United that little bit of confidence? So yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I've just seen there as well. Apparently, United have had a loan offer for Conor Gallagher turned down at Atletico Madrid today. Wow. I mean, at least they're looking to address the midfield, because that was my next question for you with the midfield. Yeah. I feel like they've neglected the midfield slightly. Obviously, you can't fix everything, in one summer. So addressing the goalkeeper situation, addressing the lack of goals. I just feel like the midfield looks really weak, to be honest. And I think if United are going to have any success this season in any shape or form, the midfield's got to be better than what it is.
Yeah, I think that's a really big talking point because I was of the argument at the start of the season that it was right. Are we going to get a midfielder or a goalkeeper? And I said, I think you can compete with a top level midfielder and have a goalkeeper that's a little bit shaky if you've got a solid defence in front of them, which I believe we do. I think that United back three, back five, whatever you want to call it, is actually really solid when we've got players fit. But I've been shown the real way in that no, you need a good goalkeeper because we've been targeted on those corners and those crosses into the box. And I think the goalkeeper was the more important option, but then you look at the midfielder and it's frustrating because you've got Bruno Fernandes in there. We brought in too many number 10s, first of all. I don't think any of us expected to get Cunha and Mbeumo. And Bruno's best position is in the 10. But you don't want to bench Bruno Fernandes because he's one of the best players in the Premier League when he's at his best. We know that. He was back to his best against Burnley. And the frustrating thing is that he's not great in that number 8, number 6 position. He needs someone alongside him who can cover the midfield, who can defend. So if you're looking at Casemiro from maybe 3 or 4 years ago, perfect, because he's got the legs and he's experienced and he knows what he's doing. Maybe you bring in a Believer type and that's allows Bruno to have his creative freedom because we know he likes to get everywhere. You look at his heat map, he's at left back, right mid, left mid, up front, wherever you want it, the ball is, Bruno goes because he's that kind of player. And you need someone to anchor that midfield, especially when you only got a midfield too. So I think that's obviously disappointing that we didn't bring anyone in. I think there's still talking points as to what that best midfield pairing is. I think Agate and Mainu in those games where you go maybe to Man City, you go away to Arsenal or Liverpool, could potentially be the best balance because you've got Agate, I think from the start, is actually a lot better than when he comes off the bench. Off the bench, he looks a little bit inconsistent. And I think Mainu, look, we know he's got quality about him. And we know Amorim does like him. He said that in the last few days. And if he really didn't, he would have gone on loan. We know that Amorim is very cutthroat in who he believes in. That's why Rashford didn't play. That's why Garnacho didn't play. So I think there's potential there. But yeah, I think potentially January, we'll see where we're up to. I think bringing in that goalkeeper, though, is more important. But the midfielder is still questionable. So we'll see how we get on.
Yeah, definitely. We've covered United pretty well there, mate. I think. You've made me feel more positive from a Man United perspective. So I might just give you a message every now and again just to cheer me up.
That's it. I'll tell you the positives from the game. I'll tell you the negatives too. But hey,
I'll already notice the negatives. Don't worry. But yeah, thank you, George, for joining us. Much appreciated. Obviously, we'll bring Kieran and Jordan back in. Obviously, we'll do a roundup because I believe we've got another guest coming on in 5 minutes or so.
We do.
So
a certain Swansea fan, and I'm glad you guys got about 15 minutes there to somehow make United sound positive. Because
I mean, he did. I didn't.
What a headache of a football club to be able to support. We've got the news.
I refer them more as a nosebleed than a headache.
Yeah, good point. Reports coming in from Fabrizio is that the Gay deal sheet has been handed in before the deadline. The medical is done. So there were talks about the Mark Gay deal, obviously from Palace to Liverpool, completely being off, but that's now there. So there's still a chance there. Obviously, that's more of a concern for Crystal Palace, just out of the fact that obviously, unless they've preemptly made this signing and made it agreed and are kind of just waiting on this medical to go through, then obviously they're gonna have that problem of not having anything done. But a tweet has come out regarding Newport, and it has said the window is officially shut, but we are still expecting confirmation on two new deadline day loan signings. So I'm expecting 20-year-olds from Swansea, truth be told, because I don't know whether we're gonna, which is very, very fitting because of course we have got a Swansea fan due to join very, very soon. So it's gonna be a very interesting, obviously. Next hour and a bit, obviously, as you will see by anyone watching. At the bottom, despite the window being shut, we still have, let's just call it an hour and 40 minutes, 4 signings to be made. So if you've seen anything happen from your club, or you want to give a review of how you believe your transfer window has gone or your deadline day has gone, more to the point, then make sure to chuck your comments in. And like we said, we'll be able to see them on screen and we'll be able to discuss them a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen quickly there, Port Vale have announced Ollie Pearce from York City.
Yeah,
That's a massive, massive signing for them. Obviously,
It
top
is.
scorer in the National League last season. He's already scored this season as well. York have had a tough start, sacked the manager, like I mentioned earlier, but Ollie Pearce, he will absolutely rip it up. I think he will do really well. That's a big signing.
Yeah, fully.
Gillingham have made
fully
another
agree with
addition. Gillingham have made another addition. Literally just said there, obviously, about Smith signing for Gillingham, that they've also signed Gareth McCleary on a 1-year deal. That was confirmed 3 minutes ago.
Wow.
It's about 5 minutes ago, actually.
McCleary.
Gareth McCleary, I believe, is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, that's Ainsworth
Yeah,
getting the band back together then, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's Ainsworth definitely getting the fans back
I was just
together.
about to say that. I'm
we
sure
know
it's
this,
both
right? He is 38 years old, obviously played under Gareth Ainsworth at Wickham. So the deal is until the end of the season with an option of an extra 12 months come the end of the season. And there's many stats on the screen there. The forward has played over 600 games and will train with his new teammates later in the week. Starting out his career, and this sounds mental, starting his career with Oxford City in 2005. So he has had a very very long form career, but there we are. We of course have got the Gareth Ainsworth band getting back together. But that being said, we've talked about a certain football club, and or I've talked about a certain football club. Should we get our next guest onto the panel?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
There he is himself. Hello, James. Matt, how are you doing on this fine deadline day, despite the window actually now being shut?
I'm doing all right, mate, to be honest. For once, as a Swansea fan, I'm not actually raging at this point in time. I'm actually quite happy.
Well, I've discussed a few Swansea moves, of course, Ida being one of them. I mean, that one we could have spotted out. It was going to happen for about 2 weeks. You've even got a couple of interesting departures. Ollie Cooper going out on loan to the division below. How do you review your transfer window up until now?
I think it's probably, if we get Manuel Benson over the line from Burnley and that Samuel Smith from Strasbourg as well, I think it has to be our best window since we've been relegated, I think. You said about the departures, we've lost like all the dead weight, like Jerry Yates and players like that who just weren't going to play and haven't ever shown anything. Cooper was a bit of a soft one for us because he's always a Swansea lad and it's all that, scores against Cardiff. But at the same time, with our midfield being as good as it is now, bringing in players like Galbraith and Dialkue, Stamenic, Vidal, he's just not going to play. So for his sake, he needed to go, I think. But apart from that, I really cannot complain at all. I think it's definitely the best window we've had since we've been relegated.
It's been a very good window, and I've just got to divert away because I'm absolutely buzzing. 2 minutes ago, Newport County tweet, let's announce a couple of signings, shall we? So I mentioned those 2 loan moves. Here they come. But we will divert towards more Swansea before I end up probably raving over the 2 Swansea loan players we are about to sign.
I was going to say, who's available?
I should ask that, but we won't divert into Newport, into Swansea. We will try and keep it to just Swansea. Obviously, start of the season, James hasn't been too bad, but you kind of put the fixtures to results. But given the signings you've made, how do you see the rest of the season potentially panning out for you?
I think it's exciting times. I think my main sort of worry is it's with Sheehan, obviously. It's just a massive unknown. But I think with the way we started the season, if you said, I think it was on paper the second hardest start in the league before the season had started. If you said, you come out with 7 points, you beat Sheffield United, you beat Sheffield Wednesday, and you draw to Watford, and then a loss against the perfect Borough, I don't really think you can complain too much. I think moving forward now, we've got to keep this sort of form going because with the players we've got in, we could really compete for that playoff spot, I think. So it really just does depend on how this manager gets us playing, and more importantly, how we bring these sort of new players in, embed them, and hopefully get them going quickly, because there is huge potential with this squad, I think.
I think there's huge potential. And what I've liked with the way Swansea have went about their business, they've not done what a lot of clubs have done. And Dan's mentioned this, where clubs are panicking to make loads of deals on deadline day, and they're kind of throwing themselves out there. Obviously, Ida, a little bit of an exception, but at the same time, that's one that we thought was gonna come for a little while. But we will talk about Adam Ida, because I think he's probably the biggest profile of player. Obviously signing from Celtic, if I'm not mistaken. That kind of signing, how big of a signing do you think that could be going into the rest of the season?
I think you've seen all the comments with Celtic fans who have their opinions, but then you also look 4 months back and they all loved him to pieces. So they're quite a back and forth sort of bunch, you have to say, with opinions on players. So I didn't trust it too much, but we can't ask for much more. It's ambition from the board. You don't normally see teams who aren't on parachute payments spending £6 million on any player, let alone after already spending at least £10 million before that as well. So I think, at the end of the day, it could work, it couldn't work, but I can't fault the boards for trying and get something like that over the line, because we missed out on so many targets. I think William Gerbils, we tried to get him. Kevin Carlos went to Nice. There was just so many players that just turned us down last minute, and it looked like the same was going to happen with Ida at some point today, with how Celtic have been dealing with this whole situation for the past 3 or 4 days. But I'm glad it's done, and fingers crossed he's going to be the missing piece that we've needed for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think I could see him being that. So obviously he's got a little bit of Champions League experience with Celtic. 24 years old, so he's definitely got a lot of room to really flourish and kind of push towards being the striker that everyone thought he would be. Let's be fair. You look at him 6 years ago, everyone was going, "But yeah, he's the next Harry Kane." He's the Irish Harry Kane kind of thing. Obviously, not quite transpired that way. But obviously, we're talking transfers, we're talking deadline. Was there anything else you thought you needed strengthening? Obviously, you've mentioned that there's a good squad there. If you're going to be really picky, would there have been anything else you would have included within that window?
If Benson and Samuel Smith go through, then no, because I think we've literally strengthened everything we could have possibly wanted to. We've got 2 good players in every position now, at least. I think left back was our main concern, because as much as we all love Josh Tymon, and he is absolutely brilliant, we needed a backup just in case something was to happen. And this Samuel Smith now, I think it was just waiting on Ben Chilwell to go to Strasbourg, which has now been here we go by Fabrizio, I believe. So that should be that sorted out for us. But yeah, I genuinely can't, especially with Benson as well, because then you have Ronaldo and him competing for that right winger spot. We've got Anusa and Eom competing for left wing, and then we kept Vipotnik as well to back up Ida, which is a big one for me, because 3 goals in 3 games, was really, really good at Hillsborough on Saturday as well. So I'm happy he stayed. But yeah, to be honest, if them 2 deals go through, I really can't think of anything else we would have needed.
Look at you guys having a really good window. While I've listened to a couple of United fans basically complain for the past 10 minutes. What good fun. No, but this is the thing when it comes to Swansea. Like I said, I think you've been really smart with the business, really efficient with it, and I'm looking at just kind of a basis of squad depth at the minute. It's good. It's really good. There's depth. There's strength in depth as well. It's not just players there for the sake of numbers. There are players there who are actually there with purpose. There's a lot of League Two teams with signing teasers, by the way. Salford, Cheltenham, Bristol Rovers, Bromley, and of course Newport. Obviously, these will be announced, I'd imagine, in about 2 minutes' time. So, James, I'd like to keep all of you, just because I reckon one of them is going to be a Swansea player. And how it's going to work. I'm going to throw loads of questions at you about said Swansea player.
I don't know if we've got anyone to give you. I'm trying to think of who it could be if it was from us, because we loaned out, Cottrell went to Bristol Rovers earlier, and he was the main one I thought would go back to League Two. Com Green have already gone to Scotland. So
we've already got Ben Lloyd off you. So
yeah.
By the way, decent little footballer. He'll be within the mix of your team within the next few years, I'd imagine. He's a, we talked about earlier, Obi at United needing to get a loan move for the sake of experiencing physical football. He needs him. He's a very, very weak player. So I think a year in League Two, even though I think his loan's only until January, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, weird that for me. I don't know why he wouldn't just let it. I assume there's probably an option to extend in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'd imagine there was not. It was the same when we loaned Ollie Cooper off you a few years ago. It was until the end of the season. Then you recalled him. Thanks for that. We would have got automatic promotion otherwise. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. But
Apologies.
yeah, I don't think I can blame you for it. Aston Villa have submitted a deal sheet for their attempt to sign Harvey Elliott. Obviously, we've heard of that one many a times. Hamburg appear to have teased the signing of Fabio Vieira from Arsenal. Oh, you remember him a few years ago? Everyone
I forgot he was still at Arsenal.
Yeah, you remember him a few years ago when he signed from Porto? Though everyone was like, "Wow, what a player he's going to be!" And
he's gone incredibly quiet, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean the strength and depth in that attacking mid for Arsenal. Right, here we go. Here's one of the Newport signings. Nathan Opoku from Leicester City is the first.
So right, it's not new, but it's not a Swansea signing.
Is he hold a second. Is he a striker? Oh, he's a striker. Yes, he's a striker. Yes. Sorry, I'm very happy with that. Tommy Taylor is a. So Cheltenham-wise, Tommy Taylor is the player joining them.
For Bristol Rovers, I've seen is Freddie Isaka.
Are these permanent deal? Oh yeah, Freddie Isaka from Plymouth to Bristol Rovers.
Isaka's a loan from Plymouth Argyle, as we mentioned. That'll be the replacement for Isaac Hutchinson, in which I assume has just been announced by Cheltenham Town. I mean, that's a very good pickup.
That is a very. I saw it while he was talking.
I say assume.
The United discussion was going on. That's a
really
good signing.
It's not him just yet. It's not. They've announced Tommy Taylor. Have Cheltenham Town, but Isaac Hutchinson does sound like he's on his way there as well.
Come on, you got to. So
it's made me look foolish.
So some of the replies from replies not very well taken half the time, but the replies on the Newport tweet regarding our signing, quote, I can't read one of them because it has a word that I cannot say. I can't say on here. If you look at the tweet, you'll know the one I'm on about.
One of them's a video of Pieface raging.
And another one of them is, I like this. He's a bit unknown. Could be class for you. I'm not going to lie with you. I've never heard of him before in my life. So
he was quite good in pre-season.
Sometimes they're the best ones.
But Kieran, if you want to know this from the quote tweets, apparently he was in the Belgian top flight last season. If that interests you.
Hold the phone. I'm Googling his name very quickly.
That was from
I'm sure he was quite good in
a quote tweet from that. But...
He is so first of all, he's 24 and on a loan, which I think is mad. 24? Yes, he was in the Belgian top flight. 27 games, 5 goals. I
mean,
not bad.
Who was he playing for in the Belgian league?
Oh God. O-H...
pronunciation.
O-H Leuven?
Leuven.
That's the one. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, he was playing for them, so he played... I've just closed his Wikipedia page. Hold the phone. Give me a second once more. Also, you can go over the Salford signing. I think that one's also being confirmed.
I'd imagine so. Let me have a quick look.
So we scored... in April 2024, he suffered a double leg fracture.
Oh, wow.
That's not ideal, is it?
No. And yes,
maybe that's what's held his career up a little bit. You know, you're saying he's 24 and he's maybe on a loan. Maybe if he's had a double leg break, maybe that took like 2 years out for that.
This loan move was in. He suffered this injury in April 2024, and to my knowledge, he's near enough had a year out. But that's an interesting signing. I'm waiting on the second one.
I've just seen there, League Two side Bromley have announced Kyle Samuel from Manchester City on a season-long loan, central defender. That could be a good signing.
As is their already strong defence.
Carlos Mendes Gomez is now on loan at Exeter. I think I only know him because his name rolls off the tongue really nicely. I must admit.
It is a great name, isn't it? As well, it was top notch for Morecambe a few years ago. I won't remind you, Kieran.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, and of course, Salford City as well. They've confirmed the signing of Dan Udo on a permanent deal from Wycombe Wanderers. It's a pretty smart transfer.
I've only just realised this guy played in the Baller League. Apparently, Nathan Opoku apparently played in the Baller League. I'm trying to see if he actually did. Hold on.
Baller League while at Leicester.
Well, this is just off of chats that I'm seeing on like a Newport chat, and the one comment is we've signed a player from the Baller League, but I can't see anything mentioning on his Wikipedia page about the Baller League. I don't know. Maybe.
No.
Started his youth career in America by the looks of it.
He's had an interesting career from the sounds of things.
Yeah, this is a very interesting. This is a very interesting footballer, I must admit. I'm trying to see if he has.
He sounds like a bit of a journeyman for a 24-year-old.
Yeah,
I'm gonna search it up. I'm gonna search a Baller League and see if there's photos of him.
Will this affect your judgment on him if he's played in the Baller League?
He's played in the Baller League.
Kieran's obviously thrilled by that, by the way.
That is really weird that someone at Leicester would be playing Baller League.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Oh, who was it who played for Morecambe? Is it the guy who's now signed for Cheltenham?
But he was in that.
He was in the Baller League, wasn't he?
Yeah.
James, do you know any Swansea players who have played in the Baller League or currently partake in the Baller League? It seems as you're still here in Swansea as I'm mentioning.
Funnily enough, no.
No.
I don't. I'd be a bit concerned if our players were playing in the Baller League, in all honesty.
Yeah, I'm under the
same. You imagine Adam Ida plays in the Baller League and then gets injured for 6 months playing in the Baller League. Does it transpire over the real life? Is what I want to know.
It's random how easy these clubs let these players go do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Especially at the time of year it was as well.
Some of the reactions on this.
It's not even just Baller League either. There's been a couple of no league clubs. Was it Halifax that allowed to play, or there was a Halifax player that went on Love Island, wasn't there?
Remember that? Yeah, there's some footballers who have taken some very interesting career paths. Former Newport player Lewis Collins now plays part-time football in Australia or something like that, and he does something else on the side. In case you couldn't tell, brother to Milton Keynes player, Aaron Collins. Two very different career paths, I must admit.
Slightly
different career paths. I don't even know what we talked about Baller League now on a deadline day window. I don't know how we've managed to get to that.
I blame you, Kieran.
Yeah, I mean, slightly my fault. But that being said, we'll get back on track. James, Swansea-wise, is there anything else you kind of want to mention going into it? You know, going into the rest of the season now, or at least up until January, and just kind of give a summary of your window.
Yeah, I think it's a summary of a window. It's been really, really good. You know, we've improved everywhere over the pitch, really. You know, we finally seem to have got the striker we've been desperate for since Perot left, really, to Leeds a couple of years ago. You know, but midfield is so much better. I think letting Matt Grimes go was one of the best things that we've done, as much as I did really like him. It's like opened up our midfield to be so much more dynamic now than it used to be, like just leaning on him all the time. I just think, yeah, we need to keep going with how we started the season, because it's been really good. As much as people might say, oh, maybe you shouldn't have not lost at Borough or should have beaten Watford, but at the end of the day, you know, you would have taken 7 points and 2 cup wins before any of it started 100%. So I think, yeah, we've done really, really well. So I think it's up to the manager now to get the best out of these players, because there is potential in that team to really be challenging at the top of the table, I think.
No doubt. Well, when Newport announced a Swansea player somehow, I'm I'm going to make sure to drop you a message on WhatsApp. Appreciate your time, mate.
No.
You know, as a one Welshman while supporting football club to another Welsh man supporting football club in Wales. I don't know where I was going with that one. Best of luck for the season, and not best of luck for the other team that plays in blue. There we go. Spot on, guys.
Very much spot on. I've just seen this from Peter O'Rourke. Birmingham have made a beat the deadline move for Sheffield United defender Jack Robinson. They're hopeful they've got the deal done in time. Of course, Birmingham, they've spent a bit on that.
He's muted.
You muted.
You're muted.
I was literally just about to say that then, and I muted myself. But yeah, that's the one I was going to say.
There's some. We still got to wait for, obviously the news of.
I've just seen Newcastle have handed in a deal sheet for Wissa to take the deal over the deadline, try and get that done. The striker William Asula, I think he's called, was meant to be going to Frankfurt for 28 mil. That's fell through, so he's not going. So he's staying as well. So Newcastle have gone from having no strikers to 3 now, which is a bit excessive, I think.
Yeah, I mean, excessive is one word, but I think the other way of putting it is, can you replace a striker with the quality of Isak? And no disrespect to the likes of Wissa, he's nowhere near the quality. Obviously they're different kind of players, I suppose. You maybe argue Wissa's a little bit more, a little bit more dribbling based, I suppose. But even then, Isak's elite at it. So I don't think you can compare one and the other. I think what they really needed, especially being a Champions League outfit, was a big profile striker. I don't really know what's out there that would have been available within their reach. We know their story of the transfer window where they've went for players and they've gone to other clubs. Ekitike is just one of the examples. But it's going to be interesting to see how they go on to not just going into the Premier League, having to mix around the Champions League and the cup competitions with it. But this is going to be an interesting one. And this one has also just been said as well. Also interesting for, I suppose, a different end of the coin. Dele Alli has supposedly had a mutual termination of his contract with Como. But I think what I want to ask you guys, because I've since I read this news, it's kind of baffling my head a little bit. What does he do now? Does he go into football again, or does he call it quits? Because it's been a really, really rough few years for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Jordan go first. Yeah, go for it.
It has. The honest answer is I don't really know. He's sort of, he's obviously gone to Italy. He's tried something different. Of course, it's not happened there. But it's been quite a few years now where he's struggled. I think there's been circumstances as to why it's that, but he's certainly not really done anything. He's not played a lot of football at all either. So, it's a really interesting one. That I guess it really depends of what he wants to do. Really, it's not really our place to really judge that. If he decides to retire, then maybe it could be it. But as long as MK Dons don't come knocking, I know Luke will probably brag about that. Surely not. But nothing surprises me with MK Dons.
There's a weird link there, to be fair.
Nothing surprises me with MK at the minute, but surely not. It's too low of a level. I'd like to think so anyway, but I won't be surprised if he retires, to be quite honest. But it sort of depends how he feels and see what options are out there and if clubs are willing to give him a chance. I have to see. He'll probably have to drop down to a much lower level now with that, but I guess we'll see what happens. Shame, really, what's happened to him. World at his feet, what was it, 10 years ago now? Unreal player that he was at that point, and it's sort of just gone like that, really. Crying shame, really.
Yeah, it's quite sad it's gone that way, really, because like you say, remember that goal at Palace when he flicked the ball over his head and he volleyed it in the bottom corner, and it just felt like he was straight in the England squad. He had the world at his feet, like you say, and I think obviously there was a lot of off the field issues. He'd done that interview with Gary Neville, which was really opening, and told us all about his struggles and things. So I'm really pulling for him. I want him to do well, but I don't want to bring it up again. But it genuinely wouldn't surprise me if at some point in the next year or so, if we don't see him in the Baller League or something like that, that wouldn't surprise me either. That if he maybe decides to hang up his boots playing professionally, and maybe just goes into that area of it where he just does it for the fun of it type thing.
Can I just stop you there? Some big news just coming in from David Ornstein. It revolves around Mark Gurhey. The deal to Liverpool is off. He obviously did his medical agreement. There was an agreement of £35 million between the two clubs, but Crystal Palace have been unable. It looks like they've been unable to find a replacement, so they've stopped the move from happening. I mean, it's big for Crystal Palace. It'll be a disappointing one for Liverpool, but he's on his way. So I think if you're Palace, you're buzzing. I think if you're Liverpool, you're slightly disappointed with that one.
Yeah, there's no doubt. That one's been, God, has went up and down all day, hasn't it?
It's been a bit on and off, isn't it?
Yeah.
That one.
Another one that has been, I wouldn't even say, it kind of on and off, involves a certain Manchester club, not the one that'll benefit you, Dan. A deal sheet for the signing of Gianluigi Donnarumma to Man City has been submitted. That one, still an interesting one. I know Edison gets links away from the club every single window. I think James Trafford started bad at all. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was a former youth academy player. Obviously spent a few years away, tried to get himself into the tried to kind of get himself into that picture. Join City as their what seems to now be temporary number one, because still a good keeper. And you think about it, what's Donnarumma? 25, if that. Not an old goalkeeper by any stretch of the imagination. So he's probably going to have a decade at the top level, and that's really gonna hinder. I suppose Trafford in one way or another. I suppose there's competition there. Tranmere are also about to confirm a signing. And that signing, of course, is Joe Ironside from Doncaster Rovers. Striker was signed on a 3-year deal.
Sounds like a very smart addition.
Very, very smart addition.
It feels like a natural fit as well, a very good fit.
He's a very physical striker, He's very, very clinical as well. Obviously, he's had his problems of injuries and whatnot within the past. But no, I think that's a mutually beneficial deal for all parties, just out of the reality that I don't really think Ironside was getting the sniff of that Doncaster team, especially given the fact they're absolutely flying at the minute. And let's be fair, we've talked about Tranmere many a times. They struggle to score goals unless they're absolute worldies from about 40 yards away. So from a Mark Patrick, yeah, exactly. But now having that clinical striker who you can just rely on within the the 12-yard box is exactly what you want. He's gonna, if he gets the service to him, which is going to be another question that we'll debate with on 40th either, I'd imagine relatively soon. He could be a very, very good signing. I think you're looking at potentially a 15-goal kind of season from him there. I think he has the potential to put those kind of numbers up, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, just in there, Jack Nolan's left Gillingham by mutual consent as well.
Again, the man who had single-handedly saved Accrington at one point. What a player he was.
He'll be a very good pickup for any League Two side. That very good.
You think he'll have a queue a mile long, won't he, of clubs you would assume that would want him. It makes you wonder if he does have somewhere lined up potentially. That's why it's by mutual consent. It wouldn't surprise me if that's announced at some point in the near future.
So Arsenal have confirmed, again, we've talked about this guy as if we forgot that he existed. Arsenal have confirmed Fabio Vieira's move to German side Hamburg. It's a season-long loan. I don't think that's a bad addition for Hamburg. There was a reason that Arsenal picked him up all those years ago. He was electric in the Portuguese league, to my memory. Obviously, like we've mentioned, there's so much competition for that attacking midfielder spot at Arsenal. You could even argue Isaac can do a job there, even though he'll be more of a winger. Let's be fair. But I think that kind of move is a mutually beneficial one. If he does well there, maybe he gets a little bit of an option to fire his way back towards the first team, like we thought he would many moons ago.
Yeah, I mean, even if he does well at Hamburg, it might just be a case of get him a move out of Arsenal, because I just think Arsenal are blessed at the moment up front. I know Saka's injured, but they've got Eze through the door, Martinelli, Gyökeres. There's so many up there. I find it hard for him to fit in anywhere. So even if he just does well there and it gets him a move away, I think it's a successful loan for him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's just but like we said, it's a mutual. It's just a beneficial move for all kind of parties. Musa Drama. I know we're not talking about the Scottish League, but he went from Hearts to a team called Tureens. I feel like I remember that name from somewhere. If I'm going to Google his name very quickly.
Who's this, sorry?
A footballer called Musa Drama. I don't know why. It was someone Sevilla. It's kind of his. Yeah, I had a feeling I remembered his name. That was one that I just remembered very randomly. I remember this guy's name. I know we're not talking Scottish League, but there's another signing. I don't even know who Torrenze is. I don't know who they are. There's a signing, each to their own. Thankfully, it seems that you know how this is going to work, guys. Obviously, we end in about 10 minutes or so. You know that the Isak deal will be announced at 8:05.
And just coming in, Grimsby Town have just announced a teaser. There is a signing on the way.
So apparently, deal sheets do not apply to Welsh clubs as they fall under the FAW rules, which don't have it. So whether that means, I would imagine that more means Welsh teams can sign players later, or maybe it means that you can sign players from the Welsh League. You know, you could kind of go in for them now, but that's an interesting one to know. Obviously, it's apparent. We'll need to kind of fact check that one, but it's been one that we've seen from a good few Twitter pages. So expect about 17 editions potentially coming in for Newport from the Welsh League.
I just wanted to quickly go back to the Donnarumma signing. I just feel like with Man City, with the emphasis of playing out from the back, Trafford's obviously already made one mistake, and the fans were, in my opinion, unjustified in getting on his case. Donnarumma's not notorious or known for, being good with his feet necessarily. He's one of the best shot stoppers. I just feel like maybe City are signing him for the sake of signing him, if that makes sense. That they're going to push Edison out the door now when Edison's arguably the best keeper in the world with the ball at his feet. I don't know, I just feel like it's a signing that they don't need to make, personally.
I mean, they just want elite players all over the pitch, don't they? Let's be fair. Unrelated, but back to the Newport signing. Apparently, it's only until January. Obviously, there'll likely be an option to extend that loan for the full season. There's that. Again, thankfully, it's quieting down a little bit. Again, we all know how this works. We've seen this happen multiple times before. You think 40th either? On the way to we did the video reviewing transfer windows. Morecambe proceeded to sign 15 players about half hour.
Don't remind me of that.
I just thought I'd remind you. But what I will also potentially get into talking about, or anticipate, if you will, is that Isak will be signed in about 25 minutes when we are offline, because we know how this works. Obviously, we're hopping off at 8. We've got 8 minutes to kind of round things up. Donnarumma will be signed then 5 minutes later, and so on and so forth. So
we'll get the full package.
Yeah. I've literally only just seen that tweet about Abiku joining Lincoln City, by the way. I've only seen that.
Not impressed he's gone there. Just for the sake of the club, not for the player. He's not a bad player.
Yeah, off of basis, I think what we should do potentially for the final 8 minutes, where you guys want to change that kind of mind, is a different question. But I suppose we could kind of round up some of the bigger transfers of the day. Maybe we can even discuss the almost guarantees now of the likes of Isak and stuff. Obviously, we know Gay's now off, remaining at Palace. So Yeah, it's gonna. Liverpool are silly, aren't they? Really, they've went from barely spending a penny to all of a sudden, what have they spent? 200, 300 million just
Probably
this window.
probably four now.
Yeah.
I think we're talking
Is it
about
it's a Premier League record transfer fee? Is it not?
130 mil. I'd imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I believe the Florian Wirtz one broke it as well. So
I think Wirtz, and then I think was before that, was it Caicedo before that at Chelsea?
Something like Caicedo, and even Jack Grealish is in that discussion, which is mental because I think he's going to do very, very well on the basis of Everton. Arsenal have made a signing. Piero, is it Hincapié? I don't know. Yeah, that's what I've from Bayer Leverkusen.
He's
a loan. It's a loan with an option.
Centre back, isn't he?
Centre back. So 2 things from me. Yeah, I'll keep them very blunt. 1, why do Arsenal still need centre backs?
Saliba got injured yesterday.
Good point. Even though they've still got strength in depth.
Well, yeah.
And then option 2. Anyway, actually, there's 3 points here. 2, why is it a loan deal? 3, why are Leverkusen letting go of all their good players?
First one, I think, is because of Saliba getting injured yesterday, so they potentially panicked and think they need another centre half. I'm assuming the loan deal might be because they just need to get it over the line, because there's obviously an option to buy for 45 million. They might do that obviously at the end of the season if he does well. And then the last one I can't answer because I don't know why Bayer Leverkusen are just letting everybody go. They obviously sacked the manager today as well, Ten Hag. So who knows what's going on there? I think it's a post Xabi Alonso depression kicking in.
Yeah, they'll be back to mid-table in the Bundesliga the way it's going. They're an interesting football club, and they would be one to be fun in terms of a main talking point for just someone to dive into. They've went from Bundesliga invincible champions to whatever this mess is in the space of 24 months. Yeah, but bizarre football club. Why is Melier trending on Twitter? Because people were talking about the fact they didn't let him go. Apparently, he is now 4th choice goalkeeper at Leeds United.
Wow,
which is bizarre given the amount of hype he had and the fact that he was good at one point, but then the Championship, it felt like every week at one point there was a clip of him making an absolute howler. That one against Sunderland, I'll never forget. Awful.
You should probably give Andre and Anna a message and they can have a chat.
Can I just say something, by the way? I'm just seeing the floods of Man United fans already in the comments for that section. No, we're not signing Andre and Anna. He won't get in over Pim anyway. He probably won't get in over Seb Orton on the bench. Or the goalkeeper that are apparently about to be signing or could be signing. I don't know. No,
I'm surprised we didn't.
I don't want him.
I'm surprised United didn't go in for Pim after he said he was a United fan in his post-match interview.
They would done well to keep him on that evidence.
This is bizarre. This is bizarre to look at, by the way. Well, I've gone back to the Newport side and we've got one confirmed in 3 minutes. But one of the quote retweets is Golden Boot charge. For a player I know absolutely nothing about, he seems to have quite a bit of hype about him. And that means one of 2 things. He's either going to be amazing or the worst player I have ever seen. There's no real in-between there.
He might just have loads of burner accounts. Just tweeting about himself. Maybe.
He spent a year out injured and just spent that time making Twitter accounts. Could you imagine?
Maybe.
Yeah, this is a... So we talked about Jack being happy about the Joe Ironside deal. I'm gonna out you right now, Jack. I've just seen that you've put a tweet out saying that that might be the best deal we've done in a long time.
This is the same. They've signed Richie Smallwood in this deal as well. It was in the League 2 Team of the Year, so it's a big statement to make. But to be fair, you can't really argue. It was one they needed to do. They needed a striker, and
they need a striker.
Inside.
Yeah, he's reliable at this division. But yeah, you guys know how this works. Obviously, we've only got a couple of minutes. If there's any very quick thoughts, throw them out there. But other than that, yeah, I think we just kind of give final thoughts and wrap this up.
Yeah, I mean, again, busy day. Probably one of the busiest deadline days in a long time, isn't it? I think, obviously, Liverpool, the headlines. There's been obviously Spurs with Koulibaly, Villa with Sancho, Harvey Elliott, Victor Lindelof as well. I forgot to mention earlier on. Been some really busy clubs. United signing Lamans as well. But yeah, really busy day, but enjoyed it.
Yeah, pretty much echo that. It's been certainly been a lot going on. I think because there's been deadline days before in which we've done, in which there's been stuff happening, but probably not to the extent that what we've seen today, especially with the likes of Isak signing for 130 million and stuff like that, and even just with some of the other clubs, down the pyramid, there's been nothing short of drama. I mean, there's more clubs that have done better more than others today, and there's been quite a few bits coming out with the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, and there was a tweet from John Palmer about Cheltenham, which was really concerning. So just little bits like that. I think it's more the different side maybe of deadline day from probably what you don't see because of all these big transfers. But no, it's been very much an enjoyable one again. Very much stress free from us. And let's just have a look at this signing that we've made. Real quick, there's a video which I'm just going to skip.
So the other Newport signing is also from Leicester, Sammy Braybrook. And in other news, as we're about to wrap this up, and this is very ironic. Guess who's making a signing? A certain Morecambe. So that's ironic.
And just to wrap up as well, Grimsby Town have signed Neo Eccleston. That'll be from Huddersfield Town. He was at Barrow last season. Yeah. I'm assuming it's a loan. They've not mentioned it yet.
He was the right back, was he?
He's a right back. Yeah, it was a position in which we needed because we've been playing Harvey Rogers out at right back, and Ty Warren as a centre back, who is a more natural right back. But I think we see Ty as a proper centre back now. So it's nice to get that option there at right back, and with a goalkeeper coming in, I think we're pretty much set. So
there you go.
I'll discuss more about Grimsby when we do the transfer roundup this week, but very happy with what we did.
Look at you using your loan spots. Obviously, that signing.
It's only the second one we've used.
There's your signing for Grimsby on a season-long loan. Newport have signed 2 players on loan from Leicester. And it seems that off of reaction, they're both incredible. So expect us to win the league by winning every single remaining game, apparently. Very happy with those additions. And thank you guys all so much for tuning in, all the interactions, even the super chats have been great to have received. And yeah, hopefully we don't have to do this to where it ends at 8 p.m. Feels very unnatural and very and very, very flat. And I'm expecting loads more deals in the next hour. But as you know, we'll all keep you updated on Twitter mainly for all the deals. Podcasts are all there as well. Obviously, this has been streamed across all of them. Make sure to get all your news via the deck. And yeah, other than that, I think that's about enough from me. If you guys have any other thanks, feel free. But other than that, see you guys all soon.
See you later, guys.